Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Fantasy and Frames Sunday pregame show. This is week 12 of the fantasy football season. It is time to get ready for your playoffs. Let's get it. Oh, yes. Hoping everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I am your host, Gator J. With me to start off this week 12, our very own Minister of Defense, Mr. Nate Markham, as well as the Texas fan himself, Mr. Les. How are we doing this morning, fellas?
Great, man.
Hey, thanks for that awesome intro. It's good to be back, y'all. Let's get it.
Yeah, I'm glad Les finally was able to join us again. We've already had 8 teams already play for this week 12, which leaves us a smaller slate, only 12 games between today and tomorrow. But before we get started with this 3 hours, jam-packed information, I wanted to ask a few quick buy-sell Dynasty questions. So I'm going to start with you, Les. In Dynasty, is Isaiah likely a buy at this point?
I would think so. Buy low for sure. We don't know the severity of Mark Andrews' injury. I mean, I guess they're talking about he might, come back for a playoff run. But yeah, I think you gotta you gotta buy low on him while you can.
Nate, you agree with that buy low for Isaiah likely?
Yeah, if it's low, that's the problem, man. It's like, despite the fact that he has been in many leagues waiver fodder just because the depth of many leagues, the hype is everybody kept saying the same thing, myself included. Man, only if Mark Andrews has an injury, if something happens to Mark Andrews, Isaiah likely immediately is a tight end one. So I do think it's a buy low by probable definition, but the person who has them, I don't know if they see it as a buy low. So I'd flip it around. I'd say if there's an opportunity to sell high, if the owner who had him is waiting for this situation, which would be you, is that an opportunity? I don't know. I question that same scenario back and forth a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And I just don't know if when you look at his production lately, I mean, of course, without having Andrews there, but he's still not getting, even though he's on the field, he's not getting the targets. And I just don't know. Maybe if that's the argument on less, buying low on him, he's not getting the targets just because he's on the field. And, we say if they're on the field, the opportunity's there, but he's not getting the opportunities. And that's what concerns me with him. Is he more of a blocking tight end than a receiving tight end?
They have they signed him for 4 years last year. And so he's got time left. If Andrew's ankle injury is more significant and the recovery is not as easy, you have to think that if you look at the rest of the receiving core for this team, he does become, I would say, a more target-friendly option going forward too. So, in Les's regards, I'm not disappointed if I'm going to be able to acquire. I just want to know, it's hard to say with Mark Andrews with an ankle injury.
Yeah, and I think so. Watching that game where Mark Andrews got hurt, I mean, it was in the first drive. That offense struggled immensely once Andrews went out. I mean, Lamar was trying to take deep shots. What Mark Andrews does, like a Travis Kelce hogging up the middle of the field, makes those passes to Odell and Zay Flowers a lot easier. So I feel like they have to adjust and get Isaiah in that same role that Mark Andrews, utilizing him that same way. So.
Yeah, I want to talk about this next guy real quick, Nate. There was a quote come out this week from Robert Saleh about Breece Hall, and he needs to basically take what's given to him and quit trying to make the boom play. At the same time, they released Michael Carter last week. Is Israel Adebawayne somebody that you are interested in acquiring at this point in a dynasty?
I mean, me personally, no, just because regardless of what Robert Saleh has said, Robert Saleh has also said, about the quarterback situation. We don't know. Like, I don't want to take anything away from him, because I do like Robert Saleh, as from his times in San Francisco to what he's done. He's been dealt a very tricky hand in New York, but I also am a believer that Breece Hall is a legit one, and I don't see someone like Izzy Abanikanda stealing enough work away from him, regardless of what Robert Saleh says.
Yeah, I agree with that. Les? Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Same here, y'all. Sorry.
All right.
I was on mute.
Dylan's question real quick. What's up, fellas? Few start sits, all full PPR. Number one, pick one flex. Hollywood, Josh Downs, Kareem Hunt, James Cook. Les?
James Cook. I like James Cook, even against the Eagles, due to his pass catching ability. So I'll go there.
I'm gonna go with Josh Downs going up against my Buccaneers, because that Buccaneers pass defense is absolutely horrific. They are the worst in the league across the board, just about. I think they're worst in yardage given. They're worst in receptions given. They are worst in yards after catch given. It is absolutely horrific. I would take Josh Downs, but I do not hate the James Cook one there. Nate?
It went in that order. It went James Cook with a very close Josh Downs. It's and it's tough. Like, we're falling on the heels of what Isaiah Pacheco did against the Eagles, which is unlikely to replicate. But you're right. Like, Tampa Bay is such a great matchup for him and Pittman both. But I'm going to lean Cook, just a slight pivot to Downs as a number 2 option.
Wide receiver, DJ Moore or Calvin Ridley, Nate?
Man, Les, I don't want to talk bad about the team in secondary necessarily. But I want to believe I'm going to go with DJ Moore, strictly just because, with Justin Fields at quarterback, it has been DJ Moore exclusively. DJ Moore's been that guy. If you look at his last 3 games with him, he's been the wide receiver 5, the wide receiver 2, and the wide receiver 6. So you give me a receiver with 33% target share and over 50% air yard share, and I'm gonna bounce on that.
You good with that too as well, Les?
Yeah, I actually like Ridley here. Better quarterback. It's the AFC South Super Bowl today in Houston. So I think it's going to be a shootout. Like you said there too, Nate. Texans secondary is not the greatest, even though we did get Derek Stingley back. But I just like the upside with Ridley more.
Yeah, I apologize, Les. I got to go against you on this one. It's DJ Moore for me, and the reason being is because of the other weapons that Jacksonville does have, and the fact that Ridley is such a roller coaster from game to game. DJ Moore is the roller coaster as well, but the weapons that Chicago has with Fields there, it just seems that it's DJ Moore, and then whoever after that. In Jacksonville, it's ETN, Zay. There's so many other choices for him to for Trevor Lawrence to go with. All right, number 3 on this. Go ahead, Nate. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say each of these situations, at least you're talking about higher end tier players to choose between, where it's not which wide receiver 3 and flex options. So good problem to have. Sounds like you have a winning team, and let's keep this going. What you got next for us?
Next one here, I'll just go right to you, Nate, on this. One running back, Ford, Singletary, or James Conner?
See, again, I think this is a challenging one, just because you're talking about 2 split backfields for the most part, and Dameon Pierce's return. I don't exactly know what that's going to have an impact, but I don't like that matchup. actually, really, Jacksonville's has been stingy against the run. And like the only pure backfield that I see is like his own is James Conner. So I'm probably going to lean James Conner just with the almost guaranteed workload.
Les, you have anything to add to that?
No, it sounds good. Especially, I was leaning Singletary at first with the hot hand that he's had, but like you said, with Pierce, I mean, I think Singletary will still start. But you're right, it's split backfield. Yeah, this is a rough one as well. I'd go Connor, the same reason, the consistency. Even though I really like Ford, though.
I was just going to say, are we just going to completely leave Ford off of this going up against Denver? And we know Denver gives up a ton on the ground.
No, and I love that. But look at last week. Ford and Hunt both had 43% workload, so it was even. Ford had said he had more of the red zone looks, and Denver's defense is weak. I don't think the Rams run D necessarily scares me enough to be so like when you look at the balance in the workload, I'm going to take the high end workload against a little bit more stingy run D and hope that Kyler helps propel this offense against the Rams to stay afloat.
Yeah, I like your tiebreaker, and the tiebreaker there being volume. So I do like that. Les, last one for Dylan right here on this question. Looks to be a flex play here. Are you taking Odell, Amari Cooper, Ty Chandler, or is that Keontae Mitchell that you're putting in your flex out of these four?
That's Keaton over there. I'm going Odell for the upside. If his injury status, if he's clear to play and he's good, I'm going with Odell. Obviously, if Watson was not injured, I probably would go Cooper. But given the situation, I think he has the safest upside out of these four options. And I really like Keaton, but I think Odell's the smarter play.
Yeah, especially in a PPR league, right? So, Nate, anything?
No, I agree. I worry about Cooper and PS2 shadowing him the whole day.
Yeah, I'm leaving Cooper completely off of this list. It would be between Odell and Chandler for me, just because Chandler seems to be getting a little bit more, like we said, volume. But being a PPR league, I think that's the tiebreaker for me, and it's Odell. Like Les said, as long as he is healthy. We'll get to Nathan here in just a quick second, but we've just talked to Ty Chandler a quick second. But going back to the original discussion of buy sell for Dynasty, Alexander Mattison, going into the season looked like he was going to be the one. And now Ty Chandler has come on here of late. A huge, jump in snap share as well as attempts over the last few weeks. Is Alexander Mattison a buy, sell, or is even a hold at this point, Nate?
I think you probably hit the nail with the hold. I liked what we saw with when Chandler came in. I expected maybe more, and maybe my expectations are that he would just come in after week 10 and we would see a 60-40 split Ty Chandler's direction over Mattison, but that was probably unwarranted and not real smart thinking. It is nice to see that Chandler has taken on at least, in the limited route. So like he ran, let's say week 11, he ran routes on 18% of the time. But he had a 56, almost 57% target per route run. So he's being targeted in the receiving game. He's still carved out about a 30% workload. But I just I've been so anti-Madison. I just don't think I don't want to buy him. And I don't think people are buying him. So his sell commodity is next to nothing. So I hold and wait and see what Minnesota does in the offseason. And if they make no moves, I believe that says that they're, maybe going to be content. I don't know. I'm going to say hold because there's no buy or sell value to me in Alexander Mattison.
Yeah, Les, anything to add to that? You agree, disagree with everything Nate said there?
Well, 100% agree. I mean, they brought in, they weren't happy with Madison. They brought in Cam Akers. This could have been Cam Akers' backfield right now if he didn't get hurt. So now that Chandler's getting the reps, yeah, you have no choice but to just hold because you can't get anything on the sell anyway. So,
Yeah, I think I 100% agree with both of you there. Nathan, good morning. Pick two to start in a standard, Nate. Eckler, Mixon, Hunt, or James Cook. Hunt has a nice matchup. Ravens D is tough and may chew the clock. Will the Steelers clamp down on Mixon with a new quarterback being back there for Cincinnati? So is it Eckler? Is it Mixon? Is it Hunt? Is it James Cook? Very similar question to what we had from Dylan a minute ago. Let's start with you, Les.
I'm going Eckler and James Cook. Yeah, minus great question. Minus the quarterback situation, it would have been Eckler and Mixon. But yeah, again, I watched the end of that game. Well, the rest of that game when Burrow went out, and yeah, Mixon's just going to get stuffed. So yeah, it's Eckler and Cook for me.
Nate.
Yeah, I'm going to lean that same way. I even if I don't necessarily love Cook whenever you take the receiving game out of the equation, I just have to look at that potential point scoring opportunities, and I think that Cook has an offense to at least put him in a position to get us that touchdown that is ever so important in standard leagues. So yeah, Eckler and Cook.
Yeah, it's so hard for me because I do have a few shares of Eckler, and I've just seen this roller coaster with him all year. And I've been sitting there in my head, but I drafted him so high. But I drafted. Listen, it's week 12. It's time to stop worrying about where you drafted the player, and it's time to start playing the players that are actually performing on the field. And Eckler, he's been okay, but he hasn't been the Eckler of old. And I think a lot of that has to do with the offensive scheme, as well as having a little guy right behind him. And the passing is more than it is anything else. I want to lean James Cook here, and I want to lean Hunt. And the reason being is just, again, I know the 43%, but the touchdown upside for Hunt, getting those valuable red zone attempts is what is leaning me to say Hunt here. I can't be mad at you if you do go Eckler there, but to me, it's Hunt and it's James Cook. Again, James Cook is going to get the volume there going up against Philly. I think he's going to get some passing as well this week, possibly a touchdown or two for James Cook as well.
We'll see, and that's the crazy thing is, like, I would typically say, yeah, you know what, Kareem Hunt inside the 5 seems like the guy. And then last week it flipped on its head, and he saw 0 attempts inside the 5, and Jerome Ford took all of them. Now, I would like to look back at the situation because I can tell you off the top of my head, I don't know. There are times when you look at the numbers, and it doesn't always paint the perfect picture for what actually happened. Because for all I know, without remembering exactly the play, Kareem Hunt could have been down at the 2. His shoe could have come off, and he could have had to come off the field. I mean, it's that type of situation that if you don't look deeper, you can be misled by some of the numbers. So I don't want to use what I see as far as the numbers in front of me and paint a complete picture. So I'm going to agree with you and say that you have a fair reason to go with Kareem Hunt based on the previous 3 weeks worth of work inside the 5.
Yes, and that's the only thing. I mean, listen, Eckler is doing Eckler things sometimes, but he's not doing the Eckler of Eckler, all the time. Yeah, Dylan's got one more for us here. Denver DST versus the Browns, or the Titans DST versus Carolina.
Jeez. I'm going to go with Denver. Denver's defense really over the last, ever since that Miami game has actually been much improved. I mean, I think they just got complete, shit on by the public in general. And the Browns, the likelihood of a turnover, the Titans just don't have much in the way of pass rush. The Titans don't have much in the way of a secondary that's capable of forcing turnovers. So if we're looking at splash plays, Denver possesses that. And I think that if you have PS2 shutting down Amari Cooper and the Denver linebackers and pass rush lean Denver. Sorry, that was long-winded to say Denver defense, for crying out loud.
I know, right? We're gonna spend 10 minutes on a defensive question here, but here's the funny thing to me is these two defenses are completely the opposite, right? Denver's D is horrible against the run, or okay against the pass, whereas the Titans D is horrible against the pass, but they're very good against the run. So, Les, you got a opinion on either one of these defenses to start for Dylan? Is it Denver or is it the Titans for you?
Definitely Denver. Two bad teams. You know, the Browns offensively, the Browns, and definitely Carolina. But Denver's just got the better talent. So, you know, given that both teams' offenses aren't good, I'm going to go with who's got more skill.
All right, and he's got a kicker question for us. Is it Kicker the Dicker or Dicker the Kicker and against Baltimore, or is it Joseph for the Vikings against Chicago? Let's start with you.
I'm gonna go Joseph on this. Better matchup, and it's actually, I was looking right now to see if it was a home or away game, and it's actually inside.
Yep.
So
That's it.
Yep.
Agreed. Nate, you agree with that as well?
I'll always take the inside kicker over outside, even if the outside is in, sunny LA.
You're right.
I'll take the inside.
The wind affects the kick more than it affects the pass, right?
Yeah.
Start three for Malcolm here. Kyren Williams, ETN, JT, or Eckler, Nate?
All right. I'm ETN.
Smashed.
I'm going to have, even though it's, I'm not going to jump on Houston's run D because it's gotten better. Taylor, everything you said about Eckler is true, but I'm still going to start Eckler. I want to include Kyren Williams. I really do. Because I think that, all the conversation about the 90% workload and then McVay saying, well, let's not get carried away yet. But him outright not saying, nope, we're not going to give him but half the workload makes me think it's just going to be an absolute baller. I'm just going to go ETN, JT, and Eckler simply because I don't know the workload of Kyren Williams. Love the matchup, but JT's it's his backfield, it's ETN, and it's Eckler. So that's my three. Les?
I couldn't say it better. I would love to be able to, I have a couple shares of Kyren, and I'm chomping at the bit to put him back in my lineups. But given these other options, I'd go with ETN, JT, and Eckler. ETN being number one against my team. He'll do well.
Man, Gator, your Bucks against the run are so tough. It scares me with JT, but what do you think, man?
No, I think JT and ETN are the two that I'm actually plugging in. The question for me is going to be between Eckler and Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams coming off the injury, but going up against an Arizona team that does allow a good bit of rushing. I mean, you look just back when you look at good rushing teams, and I'm not saying by no means the Rams are a very good rushing team because we don't know what the Rams are rushing. They've had so many damn injuries. But if we believe Kyren Williams can be that dude, like Sean McVay thinks that Kyren Williams can be that dude in LA, just look back at some of the good rushing teams that have played Arizona, and they have given up a ton on the ground. Kyren Williams would be somebody that, I would be looking at hard on this.
I know.
I can also go on the side of, but we don't know what Kyren Williams is going to be. He's coming off of injury, so I need to see it on the field. Matthew Stafford is I'm not going to say he's great anymore, but he's a very good quarterback, and they do like to throw the ball. They do have some weapons. It looks like Kupp and Puka are both going to be active. Then you have Tutu active. So this offense could be more of a passing offense. Kyren Williams could receive some out of the backfield. So I probably would be ETN, JT, and Eckler at this point because I want to see what that offense is going to do or be with Kyren Williams on the field. You guys disagree with that statement?
No,
nope.
I don't. I think that in this week, because this is your matchup to put you 2 games over 500, get you back to 500. It's a pretty huge week going into the playoffs.
Yep. And it does say there's something to be said about Kyren Williams' situation where they cut Darrell Henderson like before Kyron even got back on the field. So, so great point there, Jason, about maybe he comes back in his first game back and gets the 20 plus carries, but
still want to see it on the field and see how it works out. Nathan's got one: Justin Herbert, Fields, or Kyler Murray. Fields' revenge game after getting hurt. Kyler plays good against the Rams, or don't get cute and just play the stud Herbert. This is an interesting one.
It is. Number one, how in the world do you have all three of those guys on your team? That's pretty impressive. But then again, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you could have gotten Kyler super late for nothing, drafted Herbert, and maybe someone dropped Fields. Is it? Let me put this.
Nate, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this way: would you? And I just want you to put these in order. Would you play Herbert against the Baltimore defense? We know how good that Baltimore defense can be.
Right.
Fields against at least in my opinion, a subpar Minnesota defense.
Yep.
Or Kyler Murray with the Rams, of course, which the front four is very good for the Rams. Better than I thought they were going to be anyway, with Aaron Donald being there and just taking up like 5 people still. To me, it's pretty simple, and it's Fields. Like you just said, though, and like Nathan says in here, don't get too cute. Depending on where you're if you are a 7-8 win team at this point, you have the luxury, you can go ahead and plug Fields in there. Probably. If you are fighting for that last playoff spot, you probably need to not get cute, right?
But I don't know, is it not getting cute starting the quarterback who has just that elevated guaranteed, I can't say guaranteed rushing floor, but Minnesota doesn't do a great job of stopping rushing quarterbacks anyway. They don't have the linebackers necessarily, in my eyes, that can keep pace. You speaking of pace, it's Ivan Pace. That's the linebacker who's going to be tasked a lot with trying to keep everything, in front of him. And I think that's going to be a challenge because he's not the most athletically gifted linebacker. And I got to say, my rankings, if I was going by that, would go Kyler, Fields, Herbert. But I think I'm going to move Fields ahead of Kyler in this situation for that. But I think your reasoning, what you just said, is very important too. What do you need? And that does go into it. Is like, do you want the surefire floor? They all have solid floors whose ceiling's a little bit higher. And I think that's Fields.
Les?
I've been over here crunching as much numbers as I can while y'all were going back and forth. And man, this is a awesome question. I almost feel like you just put on a blindfold and just pick one.
There you go. Yeah.
Man. Yeah. I hear Nate's argument on. I was looking at Justin last week. 169 passing yards, but 105 rushing yards.
Yeah.
So I mean, if he had another, big play in the air, I mean, you're looking at 30 points, depending on your format or whatever. I don't know. I'd probably, but then you got the Ravens' top-ranked pass defense too, and which Herbert has had a couple 8-point games against good teams. So I'd probably go Fields as well. Herbert and then Murray. That's tough.
I know.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, though. Herbert, Fields, and Kyler. I'm sure you had just, I'm assuming this is a one quarterback where you had Herbert and Fields. Kyler was on your IR. Now you get Kyler back, and now you have this awesome problem for yourself. So good job there, Nathan.
And last time Fields and Minnesota played, Fields got hurt in that game. So it's like you can't even use that as a baseline. But put it in perspective, in that game, in limited snaps total, he had almost 50 yards rushing. So we've seen that. He had 8 carries through a half of football. So that's going to help support that as well.
I was going to say the other side of that for me is the simple fact that it's a Monday night game. Can you wait that long to find out?
Yes.
Can you sit there and digest the, Kyler Murray running for 102, passing for 200 and then 2 more. I don't, and then you sit there and go, oh my God, I just don't know. But again, if you are sitting there with, 7, 8, 9 wins, you're pretty locked into the playoffs. I think, it's not going to hurt your feelings that much to sit there and watch somebody else go off knowing that you got the quarterback for Monday night. Mark in the chat saying happy football day. Full PPR needs 1 in his flex. Is it Sutton, Flowers, or Downs, Les?
I'm sorry. Who do the Broncos have?
They have the
Browns.
Browns.
Yeah, Cleveland.
Dang. I like you said I know you like Josh Downs there, Gator, because of that defense in Tampa. I'm gonna still go Cortland Sutton. He's getting that guaranteed touchdown a game. It might, he's getting what, I don't know, 60, 70 and a touchdown a game, so I'll pass the mic over to y'all, but yeah.
Yeah, I just pulled the stats up, and for this one here, I think I'm leaning Sutton as well. When you look at what he's done in 9 games, 10 games this season, he's already has 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, as high as I was on Jerry Jeudy going into the season, I have to sit there and go, I was completely wrong. It is Cortland Sutton. He is the only wide receiver in this offense that matters, and he gets everything. Like you said, it doesn't matter if he gets 20 yards or if he gets 120 yards. He gets a touchdown every damn game.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's I really want to say Josh Downs, but it's for that reason. He's just been, I mean, he's the wide receiver 21. He's top 10 in red zone targets. Like you said, the touchdowns 8 in 10 games. It's crazy. So yeah, Cortland Sutton, which I love, by the way, because I've been a huge Cortland Sutton fan over the years too. So glad to see it happen.
Oh yeah, and Kyle Ziegler will be on here in a little while, and he is a huge Cortland Sutton guy. You can go back and watch that stuff. His buy on Cortland Sutton earlier this year. Mark, that's another great problem to have, though. We got some good ones in the chat this morning. Albert, good morning, sir. Good morning. Oh, here's one. Here's one right down the alley for Nate. IDP question. How well do you think Landon Roberts and Blake Cashman?
So number one, I don't want to admit fault or say I was wrong because it's not like me.
As soon as you say his name, I'm going to say you were wrong, I kept him on my team because you wanted me to get rid of him.
Oh, you're gonna victory lap an injury to a better linebacker? No. That's what you said. That's what you said. That's what I heard.
No,
you said that's what you're gonna do.
That's not what I said.
You said yes because Juan Alexander got hurt, but no, Landon Roberts has been one of, if not, I can't say the most efficient linebacker, but he has been hyper efficient at tackle rate at linebacker. Question is against a Cincinnati team that I have him as a low end LB2. I think that I could move him down a little bit more. I worry about the production of Cincinnati and just the overall pace because I don't trust Browning. And I think that if they try to run, that could lead to a Cam Hayward game across the defensive line. Blake Cashman, on the other hand, for right now, we know he is locked and loaded as, an LB1 with damn near 100% workload. Should be 100% because the injuries and then just his utilization. So I lean Blake Cashman. If this is a decision between the two, I'm taking Cashman over Landon, but both as linebacker twos are good. I think better than average options.
Love it. Love it. Rachel in the chat. Good morning.
Hey, Rachel.
Which one would you start? Is it Devontae Smith, Addison, or DeAndre Hopkins, Les?
It's a tough one. I already know my answer though. I like Devontae Smith. Just better quarterback situation. DeAndre, former Texan. One game he gets you. Well, he only did it once. Get you 4 touchdowns.
Right.
One game he gets you 100 yards on 13 targets, and then the very next week, he gets you like 30 yards on 10 targets, so I just love the upside with Devontae. They're going to be in a shootout with the Bills. Bills pass defense hasn't been good lately anyway. So over to you, Nate.
No, you hit the nail on the head. And to break that down even further with D-Hop in those games, if you want to talk about a choose your adventure, which one do you want to go down the path of? The 2 of the last 5 games where, as you said, he's had target shares exceeding 30%. And in the other games, over 20%, mind you, with Levis. But he's had catchable target games of 80%, 33%, 80%, 55%. It's you're going to get the target volume, but you're going to get the inconsistency and the concern that I have. And so I'm going to lean your direction. I'm going to go Devonta Smith just simply because Jalen Hurts is better. And we saw that last week, he can beat you deep. And he did that against my Chiefs in a very pivotal touchdown.
All right. So for this game and this game only, because it's against Carolina, for me, it's DeAndre Hopkins. We saw what he could do against a bad defense, what should be a good defense, but against Atlanta. First game Will Levis played. Here's the problem, though. Everybody now has tape on Will Levis, right? And that's going to be some of the issue. If he can get the ball out to D-Hop, I think this could be a smash play. What I don't like about the Jordan Addison is we still don't know if Justin Jefferson is going to be back on Monday night yet.
Exactly.
Probably won't know until Monday morning, the way this NFL works for now, because they don't care about our fantasy teams, which they need to care more about because we absolutely pay some of the bills. But that's my problem with Addison there. Devonta Smith is, again, it's a roller coaster ride. 1 week, next week, we have good, we have bad, we have great, we have not so great. DeAndre Hopkins, like you said, there is the roller coaster ride, but going up against a Carolina defense, and that's why I preface this with saying this week only would be D-Hop for me, because I think there is going to be some opportunity for the yak yards for D-Hop as well as the deep shots. But that is my 2 cents. I can't fault you for going Devonta Smith either. Real quick, we got Brandon in the chat. What's going on, Brandon? Malcolm's got another one for us. Flex. Pick one. Puka, Jerome Ford, James Cook, Rashid Rice, or Keaton Mitchell. Let's start with you, Nate, because I love the Rashid Rice play here.
I don't know. I would love to feel confident in Rashid Rice, but I'm going to go with Puka, because when Puka and Kupp and Stafford have been on the field together, it has still been the Puka show. Now, that is not to say that can't change. It's still a limited sample, of course, but I just feel like the addition of Cooper Kupp opens up Puka's opportunities, and then the ability of Cooper Kupp and Puka on this field at the same time with Kyron, that offense can exploit, I think, an Arizona defense that we could see, LA put up high 20s, I think, in this game, and that wouldn't shock me. And I think both Puka and Cooper Kupp are capable of 100 and a touchdown. So I'm going to lean Puka. You were confident in yours. Is yours Rashid Rice, or was that just an intriguing option?
It's an intriguing option as a flex. Again, this goes back to the exact same thing, we've brought up multiple times today. It depends on your situation. Rashid Rice, I think, has a huge upside. And I think he is becoming that wide receiver one. But, something I looked at just real quick, because I wanted to make sure that what you were saying, I was, absolutely agreeing with. And I do. Outside of last week, when Kupp was injured, Puka and Kupp have both received at least 7 targets, each of them. And of course, now Kupp missed the first 4 weeks, but in that first 4 weeks with Tutu Atwell on the field, Puka also received at least 7 targets in each one of those games. So, I mean, if you are needing the boom, I think it is Puka.
Who's your floor play?
Oh, the floor would be Jerome Ford for me.
Yep. In one of my lineups, I was literally debating with Cooper Kupp when he had some injury issues earlier in the week, debating starting Puka over Kupp. So Puka is definitely my number one option there. And yep, same on the floor play. Sorry.
Pick 2 here for Evan, half PPR, D-Hop, Ridley, or Jalen Warren. Les, let's go with you. Oh, you muted yourself.
My bad. My bad, y'all. Hey,
it happens.
First show all year, man. But yeah, I love Jalen Warren. We're in any choice. So that's my pick here. Because he does have the pass catching upside, big playability. He kind of has everything that you can potentially get out of D-Hop and Ridley. The targets, the reps, the splash plays, all in one package. So
it's tough though, man. God, I hate that. It's like, the upside for Warren over both of those two does require, I think, a little more. I don't know if it does or not. I was going to say it requires more workload, but we've seen that with Jalen Warren. They need to put the ball in his hands more. It's not up to. And what is the firing of Matt Canada going to mean for utilization of these running backs? I don't know if it'll really mean anything necessarily. Hard to predict and project that. I think it's speculation, if anything. I'll probably see. This is me, Les. I'm the chicken. I'm the floor guy that wants to keep it safe. Kiss the ground when I'm safe on it. And I'm gonna probably go D-Hop and Ridley just because I feel like I know. But I have been. I'll tell you what. Right now, when I put Calvin Ridley in my flex and I get production, I go okay. When I put Jalen Warren in my flex and I get production, I feel good. Feel real good. And I want that real good feeling. But I also feel real bad if I get too cute. So I'm gonna go D-Hop and Ridley, but your reasons are spot on.
I did miss the pick 2 about it, so I would go probably Ridley and Jalen Warren. But
damn, I thought you and I were going to be right there together. It's going to be D-Hop and Jalen Warren for me. Everything I said about D-Hop going up against this Atlanta D, I like. The half PPR makes me lean Warren here because I do believe he's going to get a lot of opportunity on the ground. This Pittsburgh change in offensive coordinator, I do think that they're going to get Jalen Warren. Probably he's going to still see 55% of the snaps, but I think he's going to get a lot more opportunity than Najee Harris for every point that you can get on the ground. That's why I'm going that route. Chev Nooney, Fantasy in Frames, love you guys. Love you, Chev, and what you do over there at the Rewind as well.
Chev.
Love
him.
Yes.
Boy.
All right, let's get this one here real quick. Get through this real quick because we've had a couple of these questions. Flex 1, Jerome Ford, Rashad White, Zay Flowers, James Cook, Jalen Warren, Godwin, or Downs. First of all,
Malcolm.
Let me remind everybody that
Holy
Rashad
shit.
White showed up on the injury report yesterday. We don't even know if he is going to play with a knee injury.
Okay, I will add that because I looked in and found out that what had happened is during practice on Friday, he was participating, the knee, quote unquote, locked up, and they, for precaution purposes through the NFL, put him on the injury list just because it was noticeable that it had locked up. But quote unquote, everybody is, he's fine. It was simply precaution. So I'm not worried. And I am putting Rashad White in my lineup as my flex of those options.
This goes back to the Joe Burrow of last week, right? Because they didn't put him on the injury report. You can evidently see that he.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
all right.
exactly that's what I think at least is going on with that.
All right, Les. So I'm taking Rashad White here too, if he plays, because of the passing upside that he gets. Listen, he's not getting a ton on the ground, but he's getting all kinds of volume in an offense with Chris Godwin, in an offense with Mike Evans, in an offense with K. Dotton. Baker Mayfield seems to love this dude coming out of the backfield. So is it Jerome Ford? Is it Rashad White, Zay Flowers, James Cook, Jalen Warren, Godwin, or Downs for you in a flex?
Rashad White if he's healthy, Jalen Warren if not. But like Nate said, it looks like he's going to play.
Malcolm, who are your starting running backs in this league? Because if all these guys are flex options, your starters have to be. I mean,
I think he asked this question earlier, and it was
does the Eckler?
Yeah, is it Kyron Williams, JT Eckler, and ETN? I believe would be his starters in this league.
Yeah,
but let me ask you this.
Sense.
Let me ask you this real quick on this one here. If and I believe this is a PPR league, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Malcolm. I don't see it in the chat. Okay, so if this is a PPR league, does Downs or Godwin enter up into this conversation over Rashad White?
No, I still don't think so. No,
okay.
I think that I think it closes the gap quite a bit.
It's a half PPR, so
yeah. And in that case, I mean, I still like, and I think if it was the full PPR leans Michael Pittman more than it does Downs for me at least, but not by as much as we expected. But yeah, Malcolm, sorry, buddy, your team's too good.
Yeah, Malcolm has a lot of good problems with that team right there. All right, so 45 minutes in, we have not talked about a single game yet. Let's do that. Let's talk about New Orleans, favored by 1.5 at Atlanta, over under of 41.5. Nate, who is out in this game?
Yeah, I mean, big wise, Marshawn Lattimore being out is huge because that matchup definitely gets a little bit easier. For who? Not quite sure, but it does get easier. Kendry Miller, Mac Hollins on the Atlanta side, and then Taylor Heineke is questionable, but I think all signs point that it's Desmond Ridder for sure in this matchup anyway. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up that Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out of this game. The Saints allow the 5th fewest passing yards and have the 2nd most interceptions. They are also only allowing 15 points, 15 fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Can you trust anybody in that wide receiving core or tight end core for Atlanta less?
Trust is a hard word.
Yes, sir.
I would be okay starting Drake London. But yeah, to your point, it's not if there were other options, like say, I would like Drake London over Amari Cooper, which I normally wouldn't, but I can go Drake.
Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love Drake, but I don't feel I mean, he's an alpha. He doesn't have the best quarterback situation. We know that. So I agree with Drake. The question, I guess, that I would have a trouble with the word trust again is that tight end room. And I don't trust the usage. I don't trust the target breakdown. I don't trust the confidence in knowing who to start. And because, of course, what did we see last week? Or 2 weeks ago, I guess, in week 10, Kyle Pitts gets back to that, near 30%, his highest target percentage of the season, just to trick you, just to pull the rug out from underneath you. So I hate it, but I know that people are going to be forced to do something with Pitts in some capacity.
I got a sit or start question for y'all in my own situation. I can't believe I'm asking this, though. Bijan Robinson or Jalen Warren?
I mean,
do we think that Arthur Smith has actually learned anything in the bye week?
No, I don't think he's learned anything. I don't think he cares about learning. And I think that it's all winning. And I mean, that's been a struggle sometimes too, but what we did see so the positive note is this: going into the bye, we saw the greatest separation of snaps between Bijan and Algier. He saw his 2nd highest snap total of the season, ran the most routes of the season, was targeted the second, third, fourth. No, was not targeted the most. That was actually down. But all those positives were leaning in. And for the first time, he actually saw, red zone work or inside the 5 work. But that's a product of Atlanta. So I'm going to go Bijan. Just, I don't know, Les. I'm sorry. I don't have a reason other than just because it's fucking Bijan and you have to.
Yep.
Gator.
Yeah, I want to say Bijan, and it's. Would you have sat here early this year, first part of the year, and go, "Wow, Jalen Warren versus Bijan Robinson. Who do I start?" There is no way in the world you'd have said that. None.
If you said that question, I 100% would have assumed Najee got hurt and Jalen Warren is the lead back, and Kenny Pickett has made progress on the season. None of those things have happened, and so it makes me worried. Like, Jalen Warren's that good that we're considering him, despite those two things that had to happen for Jalen Warren to be impactful, and yet they haven't, and we still want to consider that. That says a lot about the usage of Bijan, but I still think that the tide's turning. He is learning. Arthur Smith is AI. He's going to learn enough. ChatGPT has went in, called him stupid. He's going to pick up on it.
I think in week 12, it's okay. One more opportunity for Bijan. If it doesn't happen this week, then I think at this point it's like, okay, well, I've tried to play this chip too many times, and I can't play it anymore. Not until I see it on the field in multiple games in a row. We've seen him have a great game and then have a bad game. Have a good game and then have 4 bad games, and then have a good game. And then, it is what it is. And then we're still asking the question. Sucks. It absolutely sucks. I think you play Bijan this week. But it's still, it's ugly question that you even have to bring that up, Les. I'm sorry that you have to write that.
Sorry, Les.
Hey.
Atlanta is allowing the 5th most points to quarterbacks, despite only allowing the 7th fewest passing yards, but the 6th most passing touchdowns. Derek Carr, QB 8 from week 6 to 9 before his injury. Are you comfortable starting Derek Carr?
Comfortable? No. I hope that you had a better option to go. And if you have to, though, I don't hate it for everything you just said. He was, QB 8 during that time. Without Michael Thomas, he, can still lean on some options. And that's the nice thing, is his options that he can lean on are capable of turning any pass into a touchdown, from Kamara all the way to A.T. Perry and Rashid Shaheed. But I'm still not comfortable. I have him as a high-end QB2.
I love the fact that you brought up Shaheed, A.T. Perry, and, of course, Michael Thomas, who is out this week. But outside of Chris Olave, do you trust any of the other wide receivers less? Do you trust Shaheed? Do you trust A.T. Perry?
I like Shaheed with Michael Thomas out. Definitely boom or bust, but I think he has a higher floor now. And I don't know much about A.T. Perry. I'll keep it 100.
Well, he got his first touchdown of the year with Jameis Winston, so that's truly what matters 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. Right.
Well, here's the thing with Rashid for me is, again, true boom or bust guy, but that boom could be 2 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown.
It could be. But the trend that last week, what gives me optimism with Shaheed is that typically that boom is on like 11%, 12% of the targets, whereas last week he saw over 20 for the first time. And so that gives me optimism that he's going to be, I don't want to say hyper targeted by any means, but he's going to be targeted more heavily and more opportunity to have those big splash plays. A.T. Perry outsnapped him last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, but still just didn't see the targets. I don't think the trust is quite there yet as much as it is with Shaheed. So I would order those, obviously Olave, but then Shaheed is a flex play. A.T. Perry is a deep, he's probably more of a DFS play. And if Keith was here, he would either tell me I'm stupid or he would agree. I don't think there's any middle ground.
No, I think depending on what your options are, price wise, DFS wise, and I think again, Keith would agree, he's a cheaper price, so you could plug him in and be able to get the boom from him hopefully this week. Taysom Hill ahead of both Jonnu and Kyle Pitts. Les. Oh, you unmuted and muted right back. He's like, I don't even want to talk about this. I don't. Oh, you muted that, Les. You muted it on yourself. There you go.
Sorry.
New laptop.
Yes.
I mean, I don't. Man, I definitely got him over Jonnu. Jonnu had those good couple of weeks. You know, with Derek Carr coming back, maybe they try to ease him in a little bit and put Taysom Hill out in some of those packages that they had him out a couple weeks ago. But he's had a couple duds recently, so I think I would reluctantly start Kyle Pitts over Taysom Hill. Get like you said earlier, Jason, given that we're fighting for our playoff lives right here, and that'd be a big risk. For Taysom to put, to get no touches or whatever. So,
yeah, I find it funny that you and Arthur Smith completely disagree with each other because Arthur Smith has Jonnu Smith over Kyle Pitts as well. So,
yeah,
Nate, are you comfortable with Taysom Hill over Jonnu?
I'm comfortable. Over Jonnu, yes, for sure. I have him ahead of Pitts, strictly just because. I mean, really, in the time that he's been there, he has 20 red zone opportunities. And he's just, I mean, when you get within the 20, that is, I mean, as Taysom Hill looks, he takes snaps at quarterback. He obviously runs routes. And then, of course, he can take the wildcat situation / running back upside. So he just is too heavily involved in the high value touches for me not to feel comfortable. And Les has him in Scott Fish. I have him in Scott Fish, and you and I both know this, Les. He has been basically a catalyst for our playoff runs, correct?
Absolutely.
You ready to get over to the IDP side of this, Nate, of this game, Atlanta, New Orleans?
Yeah, why not? It's I won't say it's IDP gold mine, but I won't say that it's not opportunities that you can take advantage of. I mean, Carl Granderson has had a season that we here at Fantasy Frames were I don't want to say predicting, but kind of expecting, and he's backed that up. Demario Davis is, just that safe, I guess, linebacker, not the biggest upside like he's had over the past years where you see more splash plays, etc. Nate Landman, though, was the one that really maybe one of the best run stopping linebackers in football. You have a matchup against New Orleans where they're not going to run the ball as much as they'll probably, involve some of the passing games. But Nate Landman has been pretty heavily everywhere. And then the secondary, Jesse Bates. I mean, what more do we need to say about Jesse Bates other than he's involved in every game. He's been, I believe, the defensive back 7 in Fantasy Pro scoring. Some of those is led by the big output. I mean, he has the capability of being the number 1 defensive back on the week like he did back in week 1. And then his floor is still as like a DB 3-4. So, yeah, Jesse Bates there for me to round out the IDP side.
Alrighty, let's get into the second game of the day. Pittsburgh favored by 2 over Cincinnati, or at Cincinnati, with an over-under of 35. Interesting that Pittsburgh is going into Cincinnati and they are favored. Oh, yeah, that's right. Cincinnati has quarterback issue going on over there. Who's out of this game, Nate?
Yeah, they have quarterback issues, no Joe Burrow. They have wide receiver issues, no T. Higgins. They have linebacker issues, potentially no Jermaine Pratt, who's had an illness, did not practice on Friday. Keep posted on that to see if he plays. And they have cornerback issues in Cam Taylor-Britt not being there. So essentially, for what I would consider important positions, quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, and linebacker, all missing pivotal pieces. On the flip side, Pittsburgh they're without Minkah Fitzpatrick. So if old Browning wants to rely on his arm, at least he doesn't have Minkah eyeballing him the whole way and ready to pick it off.
We've touched a little bit on this game with Najee and Warren, but I don't think they have the option, at least Pittsburgh doesn't anymore, of blaming Matt Canada. What does this mean for Kenny Pickett? Is he a streamable player now? I mean, I know it is a rhetorical question. The answer is absolutely no. But he's only got one passing TD since week 7.
Yeah.
Can you trust Johnson or Pickens in this game at all? Go ahead, Les.
So we're talking about Matt Canada. When you watch the games, I'm asking myself, is it the OC or is it the players? And I just don't think Kenny Pickett is that good. This is a situation I feel like we're all telling ourselves, well, it can't get any worse, and we might find out that it can. So I'm not. I do like Deontay, even though he didn't have a good game last week. I do like kind of like what you were saying about DeAndre Hopkins getting those targets. So I think he'll probably get at least 8 targets. So I'm okay with that. I'm not Pickens. It just takes that one big play that I don't know if they if you have confidence in Kenny Pickett being able to do that and make that play.
Here's a question I have. How does this make sense at all? How does a person who runs the routes that Deontay Johnson runs, which are typically short to intermediate. Now, granted, his 8 out over the last 2 weeks has been surprisingly high. Like I expected Deontay Johnson really to run those, 9 to 11 yard 8 out, and his has been like 16 and 12. But his catchable target percentage and all his catchable target information is available at My Fantasy Life for free, by the way, which is a fantastic resource. But his catchable targets is at 25%. That is a testament to just how much garbage. You said, is Kenny Pickett streamable? I would like to throw Kenny Pickett in a stream. And even if and Kenny Pickett couldn't hit the stream with the football, if that was in front of him, he would still miss it. It's bad. It's just not it's ugly, bro. I really expected Pickett to take at least some step, and there was hope, right? When Deontay first came back, it's like, oh, okay, here's what we're missing. Deontay, he gets his first touchdown in a couple of years, basically, and then spins around, and he's still getting the volume, like you said. So I'm fine with Deontay. I'm sitting George Pickens, and I don't know, any other options there, Gator?
No, I think I think the way you put it or stated it, Kenny Pickens, I think is about the right way it is. You're sitting everybody except Jaylen Warren. I mean, that's probably the only startable piece of that. I mean, you can't even start Najee at this point.
I mean, I don't want to.
Yeah, the only potential positive here is that, Cincinnati can't move the ball. There's more opportunity to get those reps, to Deontay and Pickens and all that. But like I said, that has something to do with Pittsburgh more of Cincinnati. So I wouldn't be excited about that.
Well, you brought up the Cincinnati offense. We know Browning is going to be the quarterback. I think, that the one person that I think it hurts the most is going to be Boyd, because I think Chase is going to be hyper targeted.
Mm-hmm.
But is Joe Mixon a RB2 or is he even an RB3 at this point when it comes to this offense now?
That's tough against this Pittsburgh defense. I like him as a low floor RB2. I still like him as an RB2. I wouldn't go to drop him down to a 3, but yeah, I mean, yeah. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, I'm right there. I mean, the volume volume should lead to some production, but I mean, we have to look back really the last couple weeks. Pittsburgh, granted, against this Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt tandem, neither one of them really were hyper productive. Roughly RB3s and RB5 between the two. And Green Bay, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon couldn't get anything going. But now we're talking about split workload. So then when you go to the single back in a situation, you have to go back to Derrick Henry, who did have a good productive game. That's 2 or 3 weeks back. Landon Roberts, as I said, is now in, but no Minka is really no bearing on the run game. So, I mean, volume wise, he lends to me to being that RB2. I'm fine with as an RB2 flex, but I don't really love the upside. That to me is limited just with this offense.
Yeah, there's this game is good. So many questions around this game, and I don't think we'll get any answers even after the game on most of the questions. But Nate, give us the IDP side of this game outside of TJ Watt. Is there anybody else we're starting knowing that Mika's not playing?
I still start Alex Highsmith. Alex Highsmith is a stud. I was wrong on Highsmith. I really thought that he was hyper efficient with his touches last year, or with his snaps, I mean, and the pressure rate didn't necessarily jive with the actual overall production, but he's proven having TJ Watt on the other side really makes you a very solid edge rusher, and he has talent. We talked about Landon Roberts earlier. He will see the heavy workload, and I don't know if there's enough Cincinnati offense to make him much more than a low-end LB2, high-end LB3. Cameron Hayward, though, is one, especially in defensive tackle leagues. He should have a really solid game. I get the feeling they're going to lean on Joe Mixon. That elevates Cameron Hayward for me. And in the secondary, I mean, if you have to start something, there's a case to be made that DeMonte Kazee could see the significant, workload. I don't trust anybody in the secondary. I'm going to backtrack and say, no, there's nobody on that team that I really want to recommend starting in the secondary. As far as the Cincinnati side goes, we have Trey Hendrickson. Sam Hubbard had been banged up, but he looks like they both are good to go. Love those two matchups against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh does have a tendency to allow the defensive end edge rushers to put up some points. Talked earlier about Jermaine Pratt with the illness, not practicing. Got to pay attention to that, because if he plays against a Pittsburgh team that, if they do play smart and they lean more on that running back receiving game, Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson both are in play. And then at secondary, we saw Jordan Battle, a rookie, someone to pay attention to. We talked earlier about Dynasty. Jordan Battle, definitely for me, is a Dynasty play. Product out of Alabama, has basically stolen that job, earned the job from Nick Scott. Nick Scott's been terrible. So it's well warranted, and a player that I'm excited to watch going forward. Him and Dax Hill both make a really, really intriguing secondary. I do want to talk about one thing earlier that is going to go on, maybe a little under talked about with this passing game. Cam Taylor-Britt, he's out. He's been phenomenal for them. I think what that does is that makes them look at Chidobe Awuzie as their starter, and I don't know if I'd love that. I think that might give George Pickens a little bit of a rise, just because I think that's more his line than Deontay. I still don't, I don't want to recommend Kenny Pickens throwing the ball or pick it to anybody. I keep doing that, Kenny Pickens, and it's gross.
I think the Steelers did that on purpose. They drafted both of them so we would have that confusion.
Stupid Steelers.
Stupid Steelers. Real quick, Malcolm's got one for us. Pick a kicker. Is it Matt Gay? Is it Matt Prater? Or is it Greg Joseph for you, Nate?
Here's the game you need to binge stream.
Oh, man. What is the game we need to binge stream? I'm guessing it's not the Bengals and the Steelers.
No.
I might binge and purge after watching that game, but I don't think I'll binge and stream. I got to tell you, my kicker rationale is requiring me to go to my actual rankings, because I have no clue. Read them to me real quick since I don't have it on the screen.
That's
Greg
right.
Joseph is
Matt
probably going to
Gay.
be my inside. Okay. Inside Matt Gay, inside Greg Joseph, and Matt Prater is
Matt Prater.
inside as well. Give me, you know what? I have Greg Joseph the highest. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move Matt Prater up ahead of Matt Gay because I think that Prater has the leg that those 50 yarders that we're looking for. I don't know. This is what we need, Linder and the other kicker extraordinaires, but I trust Matt Prater's leg over the other two. How's that for analysis for kickers?
I mean, I think Linda would be very happy with that analysis. I don't know if she would agree with the way you have them ordered, but she'd be happy with your analysis. So it is what it is when it comes to the kicker there.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know when it comes to kicker what's the best option there, because like you say, they're all three inside. Matt Gay with a revenge game, if you want to call it that, against Tampa.
No.
Can they
take a dart, throw a dart, move on?
Yep, pick all three of them, throw a dart. All right, Carolina at Tennessee, over under of 36.5. The Tennessee Titans are favored by 3.5. Who's out?
Well, as I said, no, I'll take it back. I didn't say anything about him yet. We talked about DeAndre Hopkins, but Treylon Burks still out. I wish him well. That concussion's really lingered for a very long time, and it's a little concerning at this point. And then Chris Hubbard is an offensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans. He is out. That's not a loss because Hubbard's been terrible, but it is. It means backup options there. Carolina side, Hayden Hurst and CJ Henderson, both in concussion. I need to see if they both have been ruled out completely or not. I thought last I saw it was close, but as CJ Henderson and Hayden Hurst both are out with concussion.
I am looking right now. CJ Henderson is doubtful.
Nope, he's out. He's been ruled out.
Okay, he's been ruled out. Okay.
Yep.
That just makes what I was saying earlier about DeAndre Hopkins make me feel a little bit better about that call.
Yep.
Playoffs are on the line outside of Superflex leagues. Levis, Young, are either one of them Superflex worthy?
Are they Superflex worthy? Levis is outside of Superflex leagues, one quarterback leagues. No.
Nate, unless you agree 100% on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think if you're playing them in Superflex, it's because you have to, kind of same thing as Kenny Pickett.
Derrick Henry, running back 15 on the season and a half PPR. Over the past 2 weeks, he's combined for a total 7.4 points.
Yep.
Carolina allowing the second most points to running back. Oh, can we trust Derrick Henry this week, Nate?
Yeah. I mean, the last two have been rough. I trust damn near any running back that's going to see a heavy workload. And so this is the question. I think with Derrick Henry almost every week. Are they going to be leading this game? Will they lean on Derrick Henry? Is the temperature getting colder in Tennessee? Those three things. What's the temperature in Tennessee? Don't know, but I'm going to guess colder because it's cold here. We're not that far. Will they be winning this game? Most likely, nobody knows because both these teams are garbage. It's a 36.5 projected over. And I don't think that Carolina has a defense that can stop Derrick Henry. So I'm going to say yes to can we trust him? Les?
Yeah, if you can't trust Derrick Henry in this matchup, then why do you even have him?
Yep.
This is the matchup you want. Like, you definitely can't trust Spears, but yeah.
I was just fixing to ask as well, can you trust Tajay Spears? And you sounds like, Les, you're completely saying no, you cannot trust Tajay Spears at this point.
Correct. I mean, obviously a great dynasty selection, but and there's some signs of upside, but not enough to put it in a starting lineup. No way.
Will Levis under center, D-Hop wide receiver, 4.5 PPR. he's the only reliable pass catcher in that offense in Tennessee. I think he's viable this week against Atlanta. I'm sorry, against Carolina. Nate, are you plugging him in?
I am, yeah, because I have him. Luckily, is like, really. Remember, his draft capital was next to nothing because there was a concern. We didn't know what he was going to be doing. So, for those that are fortunate to have him, I feel like he's a wide receiver 3 for most teams, or maybe a strong wide receiver 2, because that is, that's where he was drafted at. So I am starting him. Yeah, I do think that they run the ball a lot, like Les said. If you can't trust Derrick Henry in this matchup, what are we doing? But even with that, I still trust, like we said, I think he's going to see 30% of the targets. Will those turn into 6 for 100 or, 7 for 33? Don't know the answer, but we know that the targets will be there.
How about because y'all love Hopkins this week. How about Hopkins versus Odell?
I think it goes back to what we said earlier about Odell, right? As long as he's healthy, you can plug him in. But, again, that's a run first, very much like Tennessee is. It should be a run first offense. But I believe that then you look at the matchup. And I think the Carolina matchup tends to give, I keep saying Carolina. It is Carolina, right?
Tennessee and Carolina.
Tennessee, yeah. The Carolina matchup for D-Hop just tends to be better, especially with no Joseph back there.
Yep.
Yeah. I think maybe I'm looking at that the production with Will Levis, and a lot of that's inflated by the one game where he had 30 plus points.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want I have a hard time almost in any situation when I can look at a wide receiver and I see target percentage on the season close to 30%. I mean, it's 28% target. That is just, despite some of the up and down weeks, like he's had more bad weeks in full point PPR than he's had wide receiver 1 weeks. He's only really had 2 wide receiver 1 weeks, and he's had 2 weeks outside the top 55. But again, like I said, he's my 3, and he has finishes as a wide receiver 2/3 in damn near half, if not more than half of the week. So it's just, there's a little bit of trust, there's a little bit of distrust, but at the end of the day, I'm comfortable with starting him over the upside plays of someone like Odell.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Getting to the other team here, Carolina, there's really not much to talk about, in my opinion, outside of Adam Thielen. I mean, look, people were worried after back-to-back bad weeks. Turns back into a wide receiver 2 last week. Can you trust him if you in a flex position? Les?
Yeah, off the targets. Yeah, like you said, if you have to make a choice on here, I wouldn't have a problem starting him. I would have him kind of, I think, the same argument as that y'all have made about Hopkins. He's probably going to get close to 30% of the target share, at least for wideouts. I was about to ask y'all if Miles Sanders is even on the roster anymore.
Who?
Yeah. Yeah, let me know. Let me know when we do our all fantasy bust list this year, and I'll take that one.
Same here.
But yeah,
me and you both.
But yeah, I'm cool with Thielen.
All right, Nate, give me the IDP that are relevant in this game for us to be playing. I mean, Tennessee's traded away probably the one that Kevin Byard that we would definitely be hammering here. But I mean,
Tennessee still has Azeez Al-Shaair.
Okay.
And he's been solid. I mean, he's just on the field consistently.
Real quick, I got a nugget for him from Tampa, by the way.
Okay.
Just want you to know, from Tampa. Actually went to the same high school I went to, so Hillsborough High School. So,
well, there you go. That's
Little
probably
cherry.
why he's so talented. Is you were his mentor.
No.
And
I was nowhere near his mentor. He's way younger than I am.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you were like a father figure to him. Then that's what
Yeah.
you were. You were. Yeah. Wait, mentors are actually older. Yeah. So yeah, you were a mentor to him.
Yeah, he
Well,
probably looked
regardless.
at me and went, "You small kid."
Exactly. By the way, stiff armed you through.
Yeah.
Now his last couple weeks have been a little down, but prior to that, he had put up double-digit point scoring in Fantasy Pros consistently since week 3. Outside of him, though, it does. It gets pretty ugly. On the Carolina side, there's some options. There's no doubt. The one piece, Derek Brown in the middle there against a heavy run Tennessee Titans offense. I think Derek Brown could be a really solid play. Defensive line play, probably more of a DL like 3, but defensive tackle leagues, if eligible there, he's definitely in that upper tier for me. And then Brian Burns on the outside. Tennessee's pass protection has always been garbage. Brian Burns, for that reason, is even if they don't pass that much, Burns has the ability to get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. Frankie Louvu has been number one. Frankie Louvu is one of the more underrated players in all of football. He is, coach's favorite. Players love him. The fans love him. His IDP managers love him. But his shoulder was banged up. He got in a couple limited practices, has a full practice sandwiched in between the two of the limiteds. I think he'll go. I think by that, I would start Frankie Louvu in a heartbeat. Outside of that, not much. Von Bell's been okay. Here's the one to, maybe this is me going back to the well, guys. This is crazy. But Jeremy Chin activated off the IR. What will his role be? Probably nothing. Maybe something? No. Maybe? No. That whole meme thing is what I want to do, but I want to move on from my Jeremy Chin love. He has scarred me too deep. His cuts to the core.
Les, anything you want to add to this powerhouse of a game with the Tennessee Titans and the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, it's 49 degrees with drizzle and a 60% chance of rain throughout the game. So,
ooh, Derrick Henry's moving up my rankings.
Yep. So it's a Derrick Henry Chuba Hubbard game.
I think so. Definitely Henry.
Okay. All right, moving on to the next game. It is Tampa at Indianapolis. Indy is favored by 2.5 at home, and the over-under of 44.5. My Tampa Bay Buccaneers are winning this game, clearly, but that's real-life NFL football. Nate, who is out for our fantasy teams?
Well, Tampa's going to have their hands full when they don't have Levante David and they don't have Jamel Dean. But on the other side, luckily for Baker, the Colts are without Juju Brents. And then luckily for Tampa's pass rush, they're without Ryan Kelly. And then Drew Ogletree family members don't get to watch him play. Yep.
This game is going to be really rough for me to watch. Baker's surprisingly been a QB1 for the last 5 weeks. Colts are averaging 11 fantasy points per game. Or allowing 11 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks over the last 4 games. Les, is Baker Mayfield becoming a must start in a superflex position?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I thought you were actually gonna go one quarterback, which he would not be a must start. But no, super flex all day. I mean, I'm in one league where I'm weighing out Dorian Thompson versus Aiden O'Connell versus Jake Browning. So I'd love to have Baker Mayfield as that option in the 2 QBs. So yeah, I mean he's got the weapons. They're in a dome. The Colts are kind of sloppy too on defense. So they could be shooting out. Gardner Minshew is good for a couple of turnovers for some good field position. for the Bucks. So yeah, I like Baker.
Nate, we talked a little bit about Rashad White, and we do believe he is going to play. I love how you put on the show sheet today. Maybe it's a little sympathy pain for how he just absolutely juked Hufanga. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah, I mean, I hated that he got injured on the play. Don't take that the wrong way, but that was such a beautiful job by Rashad White getting that extra 2 or 3 yards after juking him. If he doesn't play, completely making an assumption here, we'll find out. This is a 1 o'clock game, so we'll be finding out very, very shortly if he is going to be starting or at least active. Chase Edmonds is seeing 5 to 6 carries a game. Does he see more? Or what? Not he would absolutely see more. But would he be somebody you would be comfortable putting into a flex position if Rashad White does not play?
So the answer is comfortable a little bit more because he fills that similar role that Rashad White has. He's capable of being the pass catching back that has elevated Rashad White's value. Will he be Rashad White? Probably not. But if I had Rashad White and I picked up Chase Edmonds in the instance that he didn't go, I wouldn't love it, but I would feel solid in having, I think in a full PPR, I think double-digit points is a safe expectation for him. And on a kind of a sour note, is this too mean to call him Tala no more ACL Hufanga because Rashad White destroyed it? Too soon? I'm sorry.
Real quick update on Rashad White. He is expected to play. That just came down a few minutes ago from what I saw. So Rashad White is back into my starting lineup over Najee Harris for those that really care what my starting lineup looks like. Jorge in the chat with the hashtag for Hufanga. I like it. I like it a lot. Jonathan Taylor, is this now Jonathan? Well, it is now Jonathan Taylor's backfield. The Bucks are very, very good up against the run, not so much against the pass. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is a must start. What are you expecting out of Jonathan Taylor today, Nate?
Yes, I'm starting him, but look, I mean, like we said, Tampa's defense, second fewest points to running backs over the past month. They haven't allowed a touchdown during that stretch. It limits that RB1 comfort for me. But again, if you were able to get him and he's your 2 or flex, I think you're starting him, and you're just going to hope that he's capable of, really getting in the end zone more than anything else. But he has taken over the backfield. No more Zach Moss. Hopefully, thank God, maybe. But I've been wrong on Zach Moss too. Zach Moss has had a really good season for when he was playing. All my Zach Moss hate turned into me missing the boat on a few, really, really productive weeks.
Yeah. I drafted Jonathan Taylor in the second round of Scott Fishbowl, and not going later in the draft and getting a Zach Moss really hurt my Scott Fishbowl chances this year. So I won't make that mistake again. Les, what are you expecting out of Jonathan Taylor going up against this very good run D for the Bucks?
So I was going to ask Nate on the injuries that they have, like Levante, I believe you said, and Jamel Dean. How much do you think that impacts their running game? Because the quick answer to your question, Jay, is I don't like Jonathan Taylor in this matchup. I was running through and looking at what Tampa Bay has done to other running back ones recently. Yeah, and I mean Christian McCaffrey had a nice game last week, but he can beat you through a few different ways, and they have so many weapons that they can't play it the same as Jonathan Taylor will probably get played. But Nate, how do you are those injuries enough to start him with confidence, or it doesn't matter? Tampa Bay's just that good.
It's more the interior line of Tampa that is that's really dynamic against the run. with Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey. It's those two pieces that have me worried more than anything else. But losing Levante David and inserting someone like Servassier Dennis definitely has an impact. And I think that it's even goes deeper than that too, because I want to see, I didn't mention Carlton Davis on here, at least in the show sheet. And when I look back, it's like Carlton Davis being questionable. He did get a full practice in, but Jamel Dean. So just across that whole defense, they're having to insert different pieces. And when you have to make changes at secondary, at linebacker, it does change up the that floor for Taylor. So I do feel more comfortable not having Levante David, but if I had to dig even deeper, and this is not necessarily something I think that we should do at times, but against the run, Levante David actually is has the 7th highest missed tackle rate against the run play. I'm not going to say that his addition by subtraction. I'm not going to say that having Servassier Dennis is going to be more valuable to Tampa's run D, but it is intriguing, if anything. But yeah, I think it's going to be a better opportunity for Taylor than not.
Yeah, and I love the must start Taylor here in my opinion, and here's why. When you look at what he's done, not necessarily on the ground, he's also doing very much like Christian McCaffrey through the air. Outside of about 3 games this year up against defenses that are pretty decent, Tampa's D is horrible when it comes to that passing game. Like I've said before, if he can get that 5 to 6 target range, collect 3 or 4 of those, you could see a big boom game through the air with Jonathan Taylor, and possibly like he did a couple weeks ago against Carolina, get into the end zone through the air. So I do like Jonathan Taylor in this game. Jorge, good morning, sir. Colts wide receiver, you have more faith in rest of the season, Pittman or Downs? Let's start with you, Les.
Pittman all day, all season. And definitely jump on this and educate me, but I just don't see the production from Downs where he's getting, like, I'm pulling up his stats now. I just don't see the production from Downs that has him consistently being brought up in sitter starts or whatnot. I mean, the potential is there with Gardner and for the PPR and all that, but I mean, even with Pittman, you still have the big play ability, and he gets those targets as well. But educate me on that.
Well, I think the last 2 weeks, he's only seen like 25% of the snaps. He's not been on the field for the last couple of weeks, but when he's on the field, over that 70% snap share, he's been damn good, getting 6, 7, 8 targets most games.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the issue is he going to stay on the field and get the targets, whereas Pittman has been on the field 90, 95, 100% of the time and getting 8 to 12 targets.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, was like, is there something going on with Pittman to where this is even a debate, or like?
No, there's not. It's the big play for Downs that you've seen, like you said, on limited snaps. But here's something to put into perspective. Michael Pittman on the season has a 30% target rate. In how many games do you think Josh Downs has seen a 30% target share?
This is a trick question, by the way, Les. It's less than 1.
Oh yeah,
that is correct. It's 0.
I was about to say 0. I was going to say.
Yeah. So not that means everything, but I think that means enough that if you can't muster 1 week above a person's average, I would think that would allude to more, safety in Pittman. I don't think it's relatively close, but at the same time, you have to trust in what you see, and maybe Jorge sees more in Downs than I do, and that's not unfair. I'm willing to watch, and I like Downs too. I like Pittman a lot.
With no Jamel Dean, no Levante David, this could be the week though for Downs.
I mean, it could be. It could also just mean Michael Pittman is wide receiver 1 for sure. I mean, I have him just outside that 1. I'm going to move him up right now as we talk.
Just
there you
touch
go.
right into that. I love it.
Move over, Christian Kirk.
The Bucks, as we've said, a lead against the run, at least up the middle, gutted in the air over the past month. Fourth most points allowed to wide receivers.
Yep.
We just talked about Pittman and Downs. Is Downs, for rest of the season rather, is Downs a flex today?
He's close. He's right outside my flex, like wide receiver ranks, but I think that everything was. You said it exactly. Is he going to play enough snaps to be flex worthy? And I think the answer is yes, but there's reason to be a little concerned if you have better options for sure.
Yeah, I like him in the matchup too, against Tampa Bay. So I wouldn't be I'd be okay with playing him.
The Colts play a ton of zone defense. Both wide receiver for the Bucks, Evans and Godwin, are very, very good. Same question as I just had with Downs. Evans is definitely a wide receiver one, right? And is Godwin just simply a flex play this week?
That's how I have it.
Yeah. Yep. Same here.
Jorge, coming. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Godwin hasn't been great lately, but I mean, he's someone that you want him on the field because he can give, he can have a great game.
Yeah, the issue right now with Godwin is he does get that 6, 7, 8 targets. He collects 4, 5, 6 of those. Issue is he's not getting in the end zone. All the end zone targets basically are going to Mike Evans and Kate Otten. Jorge, one more question from Jorge on this one here. Is it Downs or Ridley? We kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, and I think all three of us agree that it's Ridley. I went with Downs and you guys went with Ridley, I believe.
Yeah.
I think Les said earlier, quarterback. I'm going to trust in Lawrence more so than Gardner.
Yep.
Yeah, and what is the over under on Texans Jags? Because
I'll be like 46.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm hyped for that game. It's 47.5.
Perfect, even better.
They're going to air it out today.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that one. Yeah, 47.5. We'll get to that one here very, very shortly. But before we do, Tampa, Indy, again, Indy favored by 2.5, over under a 44.5. Nate, we talked about Levante David being out. We talked about Dean being out for Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
What IDP players are we playing today for this game?
I think you're going to play Devin White. He's been a mixed bag of results. Not my favorite production on the season, but 100% of snaps. I get the feeling it's going to be there, even though they don't want to run against him. I think that we'll see enough in that run game that Devin White can be involved. And if in the instance they can force a turnover, Devin White is capable. That's where, that's what I want to see out of Devin White. I want to see him blitz and be productive with the blitz, which he hadn't been up until a couple weeks ago. Be involved in, pass coverage, splash plays, which he's capable of. He just needs to put it together. He hasn't put it all together quite this year. In the secondary, we see Antoine Winfield week in and week out just be just the baller that we knew he was. And so I'm comfortable with Winfield. Ryan Neal, it's hard with Neal because I see some weeks where he really impresses me. And then I see other weeks where he just goes missing. So like he had 5 straight weeks, basically being like a, top flight defensive back. But the last 2 weeks, 3 points, 3.5 points. And then they go into the bye. So Winfield, yes. Neal, I'm gonna sit.
Les, any breaking news here lately over the Bucks and Colts?
Oh, I guess I should do the Colts IDP. Sorry about that.
No, I think we covered it pretty well. I think.
All right, give me the Colts IDP there, Nate. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I am a Kwity Paye fan. I'm always gonna suggest, if you have a deep roster, you're gonna, look for Kwity Paye. And then DeForest Buckner. I really love that matchup too. I think that's one where for an interior for Tampa. Their interior offensive line has allowed, I want to say they were first or second against defensive tackles in IDP scoring. So DeForest Buckner moves up. With now the news, so Shaq Leonard was just released. What does that mean for the linebacking core? Zaire Franklin's already a plug-and-play number one. He's going to be your LB1. EJ Speed might see an improvement. I'm probably not to the point where I want to start him, but we were seeing Shaq Leonard play the first, 2 downs, and then on third downs, EJ Speed would come in, and they were rotating. So lesser rotation, more EJ Speed. Still don't want him in my lineup necessarily, but something to pay attention to. And in the secondary, Julian Blackmon plays in the box. He's always capable. The play, though, in the secondary for me is Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore 2 years ago was the defensive back one. Overdrafted last year, underproduced. This year, underdrafted, has overproduced. But Kenny Moore's back into my circle of trust.
Like it. I like it a lot. Moving to the next game, New England Patriots, probably this is probably going to be the best game of the day, considering what the other games are on the slate. New England favored by 3.5 at the New York Giants, over under a whopping 34.
Gross.
Wow. And that might even be a little high. There's no need to even discuss the quarterback, so we will move on, right? Just move right over the quarterback position.
May I just go ahead and do a quick synopsis of this game and allow us to move on and say that Dexter Lawrence is out, Evan Neal's out, Darius Slayton's out. Those, that has impact on the Giants side. Outside of Saquon, realistically, and Ramondre, is there anybody that you two are starting?
Hey, fire up DeVito, baby. Let's go.
Ooh.
No.
Spicy.
No,
I think the only one that I would be even interested in looking at, and it's strictly a volume play, is Demario Douglas. Outside of the 2 running backs, I think. Other than that, and don't take this the wrong way, but there are better options than Demario Douglas. But if that's the choice that you are given, it's strictly a volume play. That's it.
I mean, and even on the IDP side, you have 2 teams that are not going to move the ball effectively. You worry about pace of play. You worry about elongated drives, and you think, all right, Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau are both capable of putting pressure on New England. Well, they're sack plays, so that there I'm comfortable with, and Bobby Okereke is there. I don't trust a workload for Micah McFadden. I do like Jason Pinnock, but just because of his volume and Xavier McKinney, just worry if there's enough volume to support elite games out of the 2. And then on the New England side, the player, and I'm going to go on a limb here, and this is going to be the clippable thing where I'm comfortable in saying a person who's not even seeing a heavy snap volume, workload, is Josh Uche, who I believe has had an underwhelming season, but I think the production numbers aren't supported. Like the metrics actually support a better season. I think just this is the Josh Uche game that if you could bet on a sack, his sack, I'd say bet numbers would probably be plus. You should have a good return. I don't know if I would never suggest starting him or Keon White or Anthony Jennings consistently, but all 3 of them are potential against a New York Giants pass protection. That's garbage. No Evan Neal. Somebody's going to get a sack. One of those 3, if not multiple, for sure. And then, a player like Juwan Bentley has been banged up. I think he's good to go just on all accounts that I've seen. I mean, it was a hamstring. He's had limited practices, but that's something to pay attention to. If Juwan Bentley doesn't go, now you're talking about, just gross. Jelani Tavai, one of Jorge's favorite guys from earlier in the season when he was seeing production with on the field. But it's Kyle Duggar, and that's about it, man.
Wow. I think we can move on off of this game, but I think the important part is there's more IDP stuff to talk about in this game than anything offensively. Yeah, we've got one more 1 o'clock game, a couple, I think there's 4 o'clock games, and of course, and then the Sunday night, Monday night game. But before we get to that, we got a little surprise for everybody. I want to show everybody a real quick clip, and then we will talk about it.
We here at Fantasy and Frames have pie bets going around. You might have seen them on the YouTube channel at Fantasy and Frames, and I'm willing to stick my neck out on line and put a pie bet up. That's right. If Josh Allen scores more than 20 fantasy points, yours truly will have a beautiful pie ready to go to shove right in my face. Next week, Sunday morning, pregame show, book it.
Well, guess what? Next week is right now. Welcome to the show, Mr. Kyle Ziegler, wearing the Buffalo Bills.
That's right.
You know, I mean, listen, all out, right?
It got to. You got to.
So how did we do on this pie bet? Was this a W for you or an L for you?
It was an L, but
It's a W for the fans.
It is, and for you, because you're the most excited about this.
I was. So let's get to the festivities here. You want
to see what I got going on here?
Oh yes. Because there was a little comment in the chat there. There was some breaking news that maybe you weren't going to be here because of an allergic reaction of some sort to a sweet potato pie.
Yeah, and so before I show you this beautiful thing, right? I told my wife, hey, let's be smart about this. Go to Walmart, get those mini ones, those little small ones, so it doesn't hurt as much. You know what she came back with?
Yeah, right, she did.
She is a smart woman. Very smart.
Like, that's not small, babe.
Nope. That looks like a pumpkin pie that was probably on sale post-Thanksgiving. So economical and intelligent. God bless your wife.
Yep, she's on Team Fantasy and Frames, that's for sure.
Yep. So hang on 1 second. Let me try to get over. I want to get you to the how do I do to the full screen here, Nate? Nope, I want Kyle on the full screen though.
Remove yourself.
Okay. Wait, are we doing this right now? I thought I had 20, 30 minutes to prepare for this. No.
This is all you. Go right ahead. The stage is yours there, Mr. Kyle.
All right. All right. You should be able to hear me. Got to protect my headphones, right? And you know what? Before I get started, I want to apologize to the Buffalo Bills fans and Bills Mafia. I apologize for betting against Josh Allen. I should have never done it. Khalil Shakir took a 35-yard pass and turned it into a 55, 60-yard touchdown. And he put Josh Allen over the 20-point mark. And for that, I was wrong. I apologize to all of my Bills fans, all of Bills Mafia. And this is for you, Buffalo. This is for you, Bills. I can't jump through a table because I am 40 now, but I can do a pie on my face. And this is for you, Buffalo. This is for you. This is for you, Buffalo. This is for you.
Please do me a favor, Kyle. Just cut out the eyes and the mouth and talk this game with the pie. Okay. And go ahead, Gator. Let's start off. We're in Jacksonville and Houston.
Wow. I mean, he smashed that. Pop.
I was trying to represent Preston's pie, because it's falling off. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm loving the fact that it's all over the brand new shirt as well. I think you did a phenomenal job. Jorge in the chat saying, "Hell yes, 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 hell yeah, Kyle, great."
Hello,
job.
Clarice.
Oh my God, he looks like Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, Preston. Yep. Preston had his pie bet the last 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. You're gonna have a lot of fun getting that sweet potato pie off your face there, buddy. Trust me, Preston knows all about that.
My wife is gonna kill me, by the way.
Well, before she does that, keep the door closed and let's talk this game through. The last 1 o'clock game, Jacksonville favored by 1.5 at Houston. Over under of 47.5. Nate, who is out in this game? Can we even talk about the games anymore?
Don't know. I want to see the reaction from a person who's just scrolling through YouTube for the first time. Is like, oh, Fantasy and Frames pregame, and they tune in to hear Kyle talking about, yeah, Travis Etienne is definitely a must play. I worry a little bit about the Houston pass defense or run defense, blah blah blah. But really, not too many players out. Tyson Campbell, pretty big for the Jackson secondary, and then for Houston, really not much. Noah Brown, Jimmy Ward out for their secondary, but a relatively healthy game and a healthy over-under.
You know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to send this right to Kyle. Kyle, because this beautiful, beautiful sweet potato pie, I want to hear about, is this potentially a huge offensive game for both teams?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it's got some capabilities of being the highest total on the slate. I think both of these teams can shoot out. I really do. I think you could start all the Texans that you have: Nico, Tank, CJ Stroud, Singletary. On the Jacksonville side, you could start all everybody, can't you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of and I'll send it right over to Les here. Stroud is a must start. Tank's a must start. Trevor's a must start. I'm not so sure that Ridley's a must start, but I think you are aboard that, Ridley is a must start.
Yep. I like what Kyle.
Is there anybody that is not a must start? Evan Ingram?
I think you have to start him too.
Yeah, we've allowed points to tight ends a lot this season. Cade Otton had a big game against us. But yeah, I think, like Kyle said, I think you fire up everybody. Noah Brown is out, by the way, but other than that, yeah. I'm definitely worried about I would manage expectations on Singletary with Dameon Pierce back, but again, I think you still have to start him. But yeah.
When they look at who pops in, the guest from last week, Colby Conway.
Colby,
you sir, another big Houston Texans fan. PPR can start 4 of 6, so pick 4. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchins, or Steven Sims.
I'm going to go in. I'm going to change the roster settings. Hopefully you're the commissioner, Colby. I would make it a 6 flex league where you can start all of them. Mm-hmm. And then, I'd start them all, honestly. I mean, I think at this point, with that team, you're probably undefeated. Probably have the most points scored in the league. And you don't need to win. You could probably do the other teams a favor and just sit everybody. But that's not the Houston Texans mentality. It's Super Bowl or go home. So, change the rules, start them all. And I think they're all even startable in standard, even non-scoring leagues.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is what you just said there, and I know a lot of that was joking, but there was something you just said in there that I know for a fact that nobody was saying at the very beginning. Houston Texans thought process is Super Bowl or bust right now.
Oh, I think
that's a crazy statement, but it's a legitimate.
They've got pass rush that's improving week in, week out. Will Anderson and Jonathan Grenard both are playing better. They have a linebacker, probably dilemma in that they don't necessarily. I don't know if D'Amico Ryans knows who he wants to start week in and week out between Cashman, and when they get to Tua, maybe a little bit of that Alabama bias might be setting in to start players over. But it's a good problem to have is when you have too many less. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, indeed.
Well, Etienne, is a must start, but is Dameon Pierce smash? Is Devin Singletary a smash? Starting either one of them against the Jags defense, who have allowed the second fewest rushing yards and only 2 rushing TDs less.
Yeah, it's really in this situation really dependent on your roster. If you had somebody like a Jaylen Warren, or I'd venture to even start Isaiah Pacheco over Singletary with that Jags defense and with Dameon Pierce back. I think he comes back to earth a little bit, actually considerably this week.
Both of these teams look to attack through the air. you got the Jacksonville they've gotten better against the pass, allowing the 5th fewest to wide receivers, but allowed Tank 5 for 145 and a touchdown.
Yeah, he lit him up last game, and I had to think that continues. I do want to make sure that we know that we have exclusivity of the Super Bowl parade live stream, according to Colby. If you see that, Gator, him and Les, they will live stream from the Super Bowl parade. I assume the next 7 Super Bowls will be in Houston. The NFL will just see dominance, and they want everybody to be involved with the Houston Texans. And so knowing the ticket sales will probably be the highest recorded, and the fact that they'll probably have a four-peat, they might as well just put the next 4 Super Bowls in Houston. That way they don't have to travel as much. It makes sense. It's just financially fitting for the NFL.
Yeah, and Les may as well go ahead and get, the airline miles attached to his credit card, because he's going to be making many a trip to Houston from the DC metro area.
Absolutely.
Well, Nate, before you go any further, let's welcome in our very own Stacey Perez, host of the Dynasty 365. Stacey, we've talked about a bunch of these games already. We're finishing up on the last 1 o'clock game, Jacksonville at Houston.
Yeah. I got here just in time to talk about Tank Dell.
Yes, you did. You did. You just missed. You probably saw it, but how do you like Kyle's new wardrobe and Batman mask?
I think it looks great. Yeah. That's
now it's really good.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that for sure. But yeah, it looks great. You're the Cape Crusader.
I'm here for you, Stacey. I am here for you.
Nate, go ahead and finish off about because you have an interesting fact in here as well about CJ Stroud and Tank Dell too.
Yeah, it's Stace. I don't know if you saw this, but I saw Eric Moody posted that CJ Stroud and Tank Dell have the most combined yards between rookie quarterback and rookie wide receiver through the first 10 games in NFL history.
That's amazing. And I love that stat so much. That just makes my heart happy. I just love Tank Dell. I just, he's a little guy out there just absolutely killing it, like barely taller than I am. And I just could not love that anymore. Did you guys know that Houston has 3 receivers that are in the top 20 as far as fantasy points scored so far this season?
Damn.
Yeah. So Nico, Tank Dell, and Noah Brown.
And how
No, Brown's
off?
really in top 20. Holy shit.
Yeah, I think it was just because of that one boom week that he had. But yeah, still top 20 in fantasy, and that's in half PPR formats. So I mean, that's just phenomenal. I mean, Houston we thought was not going to do anything this season, and they've got 3 receivers in the top 20. That's wild.
Go ahead and add in a 4th there if you don't mind. Maybe not as far as a receiver, but as a tight end.
Yeah,
you have a top 10 tight end there as well in Dalton Schultz. So a passing offense is absolutely beautiful there for the Texans. So Nate, go ahead and finish your off with the Tank Dell love before Stacey just takes over the show.
Hey, I don't have any. My love pales in comparison to what Stacey's does for Tank Dell. Mine is yet a mere truck compared to her Tank love. So I will bow down and let you guys continue the love fest. And we got this is like the if Houston, between Colby and Les and the Tank love from Stacey and me drafting CJ Stroud and then trading him for Mahomes. If that doesn't say how amazing this team can be, is if you can get a trade for Stroud that includes Mahomes, the sky's the limit for this wonderful Houston Texans team. I'm mostly pandering to Colby at this point.
Yes. Are you trying to get into the Super Bowl parade as well with him and Les?
If they pay for it, yes.
If they pay for it. Houston's allowed 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. They only gave up 2 to the wide receiver position in the first 9 weeks. Les, are you expecting the Jacksonville Jaguars? We know their passing offense is very, very good with Ridley, with Jones, I'm sorry, with Zay Jones, and then Travis Etienne. Are you expecting them to come out firing, or is this just going to be try to run down the middle and then open up the back end?
Yeah, I expect them to go to work early because I know that Houston will. So we over the past couple of weeks, I'd be curious to go check out the research myself. But I'm just from the eye test, our pass play percentage, I would venture to say has gone up each week, and so I think the Jags have to match that. And like I said earlier, this is the AFC South Super Bowl today. So, yep.
Stacey, you had a question come through on Twitter with Scott Fishbowl scoring
Yes.
Cooper at Denver or Shaheed at Atlanta or Shakir at Philly or Douglas at the Giants. And I think we're just going to leave the Douglas at the Giants completely off.
Yeah, that, if that team was doing a little bit better, I love Demario Douglas. I have loved him since before the season got started. So big fan of his talent. I just think that game is going to be horrific to watch. I feel bad for anybody who gets stuck having to watch that as their local game. Cooper at Denver worries me just a little bit. Denver's been so hot defensively lately. And they've got DTR starting second time, second start. Well, I guess this is third start, second start, doesn't matter. I just think that's going to really be just a defensive battle between those two teams. So I don't know that I'm expecting a ton out of Cooper or really any of their receivers, on either side, honestly, between Denver and Cleveland. I guess I'm going to have to go Shaheed at Atlanta. I'm not super excited about it because I hear Derek Carr is starting. Do we know if that's for certain? Have we gotten confirmation on that?
I believe that is done.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. If Jameis was back there, I'd feel so much better, right? Because, Shaheed is the guy they use downfield. I want to say, I have to find it, but I wrote down his, yards per, where is it? Hang on here. I'm going to find it just because I wrote this down specifically for this question. Yeah, he's averaging 16.9 yards per reception right now. So obviously he's their field stretcher. They're using him way downfield. And who's better about getting that ball down there? Jameis, right? He's just going to YOLO that ball down there. So I would prefer Jameis to be starting to really make the most out of Shaheed. But out of the group that I'm looking at here, I think I'm going to have to go with Shaheed. You could probably do Shakir with Philly. That Philly Buffalo game is probably going to be one of those, everybody's scoring. I think that's one of the highest lines. That Philly Buffalo one, which I don't understand why it's not in prime time, but that's a whole nother. So I would feel comfortable with either Shaheed or Shakir.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, Kyle. I asked a minute ago about Evan Ingram, and you said yes, absolutely must start. Are both Evan Ingram and Dalton Schultz must starts?
Yeah, I think so. Because when they get down there they're going to have plenty of trips to the red zone. And when they go to the red zone, they might lean on their tight end a little bit down there, and you might come out with a touchdown. And with a shootout, I want any possible play in a tight end spot in a possible shootout. Now, Evan Ingram, I don't think has scored yet, but this could be his best opportunity to find the end zone.
Yeah, no touchdowns on the year for Evan Ingram after having 4 last year. But I think Calvin Ridley has a little bit to do with that. I think, because of Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones is getting a little bit more involved. I think the more comfort that ETN has with Peterson is absolutely affecting that as well. Les, anything else you want to add to the Jacksonville-Houston game?
Jay, I think we covered it pretty well. I'm just excited for it.
I have, Gator, before you move on, I have one fun fact that I just wanted to share with everybody. So right now, Houston they're at home for this game. They're 4-1 at home. Jacksonville is undefeated on the road. So this has nothing to do with fantasy. I just think it's going to be a really great game. Obviously somebody has to win, but I think it's just going to be really exciting.
I'll read off what the Minister of Defense has for the IDP side of this. Josh Allen is a hit or a miss. Houston has held him in check last game. I'm going to butcher the name here, but Okwano and Lloyd both are solid options against a Texas team that allows the 5th most points. Rashawn Jenkins, 6 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss the last time they faced, coming off of a game where he had 70% box snap. So that sounds like he is in on Rashad Jenkins as a start. Will Anderson with a sack in 2 of the past 3. Christian Harris and Cashman both 100% last week on their snap share. And Petrie is a solid DB 1 or 1-2 in that back end 1, front end 2. That takes care of all of the 1 o'clock games. Moving over to the 4 o'clock games. First one we're going to start off with is Cleveland at Denver. Denver favored by 1.5 points. 36 is the over under. Quite interesting that it's that high to me. Neither one of these teams like to score. At least don't have the weapons to score. DTR and Russ are both on the bench this week. Stacey?
Oh yeah. I'm really not sure how you start either one of these guys. And even just with, even if it was Watson, right? And still Russ, I think this is really, like I said a minute ago, this is going to be a huge defensive battle. I'm with you. I don't understand why that's 36. I don't even know that it gets to 36 at this point. I really like DTR, right? But we're definitely not starting him. You definitely have better options.
Well, I am. I have to.
Well, okay. Well, maybe the super flex, you might. So I'll walk that back a little bit, but I'm sure Cleveland fans are really excited to have like a likable quarterback in their city finally, right? I think the only person who might be fantasy relevant this week is probably going to be David Njoku, right? So he was targeted 15 times in DTR's last start, which was, almost double what Amari Cooper had, which was 8 targets. He's averaging 7 points per game in a half PPR format, right? That doesn't sound great. That's really not a lot to get excited about. But in the tight end world, it actually is, because there's only 5 tight ends that are averaging double-digit points per game. So if you're looking at 7 from Njoku, that's probably about what you're going to get from anybody who's not named Kelsey, Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, those guys. As far as their running backs go, I don't know. Am I jumping ahead a little bit, Gator?
No, you could go right ahead, Stacey. You have the info. Go get it, girl.
I tell you what, I had so many notes from this weekend, or for this weekend too. I just was taking a look at the numbers, and I saw that Kareem Hunt has 6 touchdowns, which I had no idea that even had happened. I looked at that, I was like, and I had to check and make sure. I was like, that's from this season, right? But it looks like he's getting the touchdowns. He's getting that goal line work there. Ford is getting the yards. It's kind of I don't really know that either one is going to be somebody that you want to throw in your lineup. Like I said, unless you're really desperate, and then you've got to pick what you think is, better. And in that case, I think I would go with the touchdowns at that point. If you think, if you've got Kareem Hunt, then maybe you're starting him as a flex. But yeah, other than that, I think it's going to be very few players from this game that I really want, unless I have both their defenses, defense and special teams, actually. And if I have one of those, then I'm definitely firing both of them up.
We talked a good bit about the Jerome Ford versus Kareem Hunt this week. Les, I think you're on the Ford side of things. I was on the Hunt side of things just because of the touchdowns, very much like Stacey. But Kyle, where do you sit when it comes to these 2 running backs? Just put it out there. You have to start one of them.
Okay, if I have, I'm actually okay with starting both if I had to, just because of the situation that we're in. We've already seen 4 games, 8 teams already play. Mm-hmm. So what kind of running backs do you have that you're deciding from with Ford, with Hunt? I know it's going to be like an ugly looking game. It's a 50-50 split back there with Ford and with Hunt. But the Broncos give up a lot of yards on the ground. So this is an opportunity that maybe both, are pretty serviceable for you. I think you could fire up both, but if I had to pick one, I would go with Ford since he's the starter.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Les, again, we've talked about it a little bit. We haven't talked about the Denver side of the running back. Javonte Williams saw his workload and production take a hit last week. Is he back to a RB1 this week?
I'm firing him up in every league that I have him in. He's just been really good the last couple of weeks. Like I said, he had an off one. I'm trying to pull him up now. He had an off one against Minnesota, but I think that's more of an outlier. with not only how he's been trending, but how the Broncos have been trending, winning games and, being in a position where they can do more ball control and get him more touches. Just watching the games, Jaleel McLaughlin, he just doesn't bring the same thing to the table. I mean, he has that speed, but, I think with what Sean Payton and them are trying to do now, which is run between the tackles and go hard, that's Javonte. And P. Ryan's not even in the mix. So yeah, I like him.
Yeah, P. Ryan's not in the mix in the rushing game, but he's definitely in the mix in the passing game. So, I mean, 7 for 7 last week, 3 for 3 the week before. He's 35, 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards. He's definitely in the mix when it comes to passing, but he's getting nothing in the rushing game. So he is somebody, I don't even know. Can you even entertain starting him, Nate, Samaje P. Ryan? Unless you absolutely have to.
Against this defense, I would find you could find much better options. I would have to assume.
We talked about Sutton. He's a must start. But Kyle, is Judy a must sit?
Again, it's tough to sit a Jerry Judy. I mean, what other options are we looking at? Let me check out rankings real quick. I mean, it's tough because Cleveland is a very good secondary, and I know that Nate's going to get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. It's tough to sit Jerry Judy with. You probably already did, is where I'm trying to get at, because of the 8 teams that already played. I'm trying to look at, who would you possibly be considering over him? Maybe Adam Thielen. I would start Thielen. I'll look deeper on the rankings here. Drake London. That's probably a good one between Drake London and Jerry Judy. I'd probably lean London. I would go London over him. Maybe even Rashee Rice in a possible high-scoring game for the Chiefs.
So you're pretty much
probably sitting Judy after talking about it out loud. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nate, welcome back real quick. I missed the who's out of this game. So if you would please, who is out of this game?
Yeah, Denzel Ward, secondary for Cleveland, is out. Marquise Goodwin, and then Kareem Jackson was suspended. He deserves to probably not play the rest of the season, and maybe going forward. I'm all for playing the game of football, but not when you're spearing and leading with your helmet. He's just reckless.
Yeah, multiple times this year. If Pat Surtain shadows Cooper, DTR at the helm, are you comfortable sitting Cooper, Nate?
Yeah, it's hard to do, but I hate the matchup. What are you hoping to have happen? He's hyper targeted and does a one-off situation. I know that most teams are probably relying upon him if you drafted him where you did, but no, I'm hoping they listen to Stacy the whole season and they have Tank Dell and they throw Tank Dell over Amari Cooper and everything else. But I don't know. Am I wrong? Is anyone too scared to bench Cooper in this situation?
I've got him. I've got London over him, and reluctantly, in Scott Fishbowl. So I'm with you on that.
Les, anything else you want to add to this Cleveland-Denver game?
Yeah, it'll be a fun one.
Kyle, anything else you want to add to this before we get over to Nate and the IDP side of it?
No, I'm excited to hear what Nate has to say on the IDP side, actually. So let's fire him up.
Fire it up, Nate.
Yeah, for Cleveland, it's Myles Garrett. It's definitely Myles Garrett. The hard thing is determining when you see that Okunrakwọ and Zadarius Smith rotation both have been productive at times. Probably when you have 2 edge rushers that are splitting carries, probably better off not starting really either one of them unless you have to. The linebacker situation in Cleveland is tricky. Anthony Walker has had some DMPs and limited practices. I don't know if he's going to go or not. Unfortunately, it's a 4:00 game, so we won't know in advance. If he doesn't go, JOK is a linebacker that is controversial because the snap share, what we've seen in Cleveland so far, is no one's going to monopolize the snaps. Without Anthony Walker, if you had to start JOK in a pinch, Denver's not terrible in terms of giving up points to opposing linebackers. Over the past couple of weeks, they've been pretty generous. I mean, you go back to Kansas City a few weeks ago, and they allowed 2 different linebackers to put up over 15 points and, average scoring, I'd say weighted scoring, non-weighted scoring. Terrell Bernard had 20. It's just a tricky situation because you don't know the snap shares, but I still think that on this team, it's pretty much Grant Delpit is about the only one that I'm comfortable starting outside of Myles Garrett consistently. From the Denver side, Denver's pass rush is really good. They've much improved. We talked about it earlier about Denver's defense as a DST option, simply because they have the playmakers that can get to the quarterback. Question is it, I don't know if I really trust entirely any one singular pass rusher. I think they all have their ups and downs, but Alex Singleton is a must start. Outside of that, Josie Jewell, he's been solid-esque, but he had a higher snap percentage last week. It's maybe flex worthy, but outside of that, I mean, I honestly don't love the rest of the defensive secondary. Anybody in the secondary for Denver. So it's pretty limited in the IDP from my standpoint, outside of Garrett and Singleton as must starts.
Yeah, I mean, you're way smarter on the IDP side than I am, of course, sitting there in the top 5, as you always do. Yeah. But I'm going to disagree, or at least throw a little pushback on you, because I do believe that Cleveland's going to come into this game wanting to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do believe, players like Josie Jewell in that linebacking core are going to see some opportunity, at least hopefully going to see some opportunity to get those higher end tackle numbers up. So Les had to get out of here. Appreciate Les for joining us. Nate, before we go any further, I do want to give a quick PSA. You've brought this up a couple times today on the rankings, but where can they go and find your rankings?
You can find them over at fantasyandframes.com. The updated rankings. I'm editing them as we talk. Every time someone brings up a point, I move them up. I moved Devontae Smith up 1 spot because he looks like skinny Batman like Kyle. So he gained a spot. Tank Dell moved up 2 spots. He's now the wide receiver #1 overall in both Dynasty. He's the #1 quarterback. He's the #1 linebacker and defensive back now from Stacy's Love. Yes. But most importantly, yes, you can find it over at Fantasy Pros. You can itemize and look at that. And hopefully it's a more productive week. The past 2 have not been great, but then again, setting your rankings from Cancun isn't always a wonderful endeavor, mind you.
Yeah, I mean, you were probably a little busy, and Carrie, I'm sure, is yelling at you to drink a little bit more as you are doing it on the app of all things too, because I'm sure you did not bring your computer down there to do your rankings. You were
they had a business center. And they were going to reserve spots on the beach. And I said, hey, can I have 1 hour to go in and do all these things, which I did. And I didn't do a great job, but I did it.
Yep, that's all that matters, that you put it out there. All right, so we are going to move on to the next game. Is the Rams favored by 2.5 at Arizona. 45 is the over-under. Before we get into this one, though, I do want to bring up Joe's question. Eckler or Taylor, or I bench Nakua or Pittman and play one at my flex. So should he play Eckler or Taylor, or should he bench Nakua or Pittman and play both Eckler and Taylor? So we'll start with you, Stacy.
Okay. So I was taking some notes and everything while we were talking. So Jonathan Taylor right now, they're playing the Bucks. Bucks give up the 3rd fewest points to opposing teams from running backs right now. In a half PPR format, Taylor is averaging 12 points per game. That's not great, especially when you're going up against the Bucks, who, let's see, allow around 14 points on average per game. Not good. So then you take a look at Austin Eckler. Okay, so he's averaging 14.7 points per game against Baltimore, who is a little bit further down on the list as far as points that they give up. So if I had to pick either one of those, I think I would definitely go with Eckler, especially with that upside. Now you want to know, do you bench Nakua or Pittman and play one of those guys at the flex? I really don't know how you can bench Nakua, especially with all that he's done this season. Cooper Kupp is going to play today, but he is a little banged up, so I could foresee good things for Nakua there. Not so sure about Pittman. I know Gardner Minshew has a really great connection with Josh Downs. I don't know that I would bench Nakua. If anything, I'd probably bench Pittman and go with Pittman, or not Pittman, sorry, go with Nakua and Eckler in my lineup. That's how I would go.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Kyle.
Yeah, everything Stacy said, I would definitely go Eckler and Nakua. How can you bench Nakua? You drafted Eckler that high. I know it's been, maybe you're a little bit upset with Eckler in fantasy terms of production, but bright side, his schedule does get a little bit better. So ride with Eckler and ride with Nakua.
Nate, you good with all of that?
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's a case to be made that I might start Nakua and Pittman both over one, if not maybe both of the running backs, just given the matchups necessarily. Because when you look at Pittman, like we said earlier, when you take a total team target share, there's only 7 people that have a higher target percentage than Michael Pittman. One of those is Puka Nakua. So it's both over 30%. It's hard to bench either one of those two, but I'm gonna stay in agreement with you guys and go Eckler Nakua.
David Ibrahim coming in here. Hey, guys, first-time caller, long-time listener, flex conundrum, Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams, or DeAndre Hopkins. Kyle, we'll start with you.
I like Kyren Williams a lot. I know he's coming back from IR, but, man, he was getting a heavy workload. I don't expect that to change. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Kyren Williams over Kupp and Hopkins.
Stacy?
Same. We are on the same page. Yeah, 100%. With Cooper being a little banged up and kind of disappointing this season. DeAndre Hopkins, the same. I mean, I'm not really impressed with the Tennessee offense at all. So I don't think there's any other way you take Kyren Williams out of your lineup this week.
Nate.
Yeah, I bounce between Kupp and Kyren Williams, and I think the more likely scenario, if I had to project a negative one, is that Cooper Kupp re-aggravates something and doesn't play the whole game. And I hate to, you hate to base an injury as partial reasoning, but we talked earlier, not sure or certain of Kyren Williams' workload completely, but I think we all know that it's going to be heavy enough that against this Arizona defense that it should be sustainable and better than the production from the other two.
Yep. And I am still going to take DeAndre Hopkins over the Kyren Williams, but I'll probably take Kupp over DeAndre Hopkins just because of as long as he's healthy, of course, the volume that Kupp is going to get. Like I said earlier, between when Matthew Stafford, Kupp, and Puka are on the field, Puka and Kupp are both seeing at least 7 targets per game. Kyren Williams coming back, I still got to see it on the field. DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, they're going up against Atlanta. He's the only pass catcher on that team. So for me, it would be Kupp, Hopkins, Kyren Williams in that order. Cheddarhead's got one for us. Hey, guys, in a Survivor League, should I go with the Titans, Colts, or the Eagles? Let's start with you, Stacy.
Help me out. What does the Survivor League means? It means he's got to pick one of these teams to win. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Then you can only use them once.
Yep. And if he loses, he's completely out.
You got to go with the Titans. Because I don't know what's going to happen with that Buffalo Philly game, and the Bucks Colts game could be a toss up too. The one I feel the best about, and that's not really saying much here, is Titans. Yeah, let's go with the Titans.
Yeah, I think at this point you're not necessarily looking at the team that's going to win, or that has the best chance to win. It's the team that they're playing, right? And playing up against Carolina that's almost an auto win. But Nate.
Yeah, I'm same conundrum. Someone else had the same question at work earlier this week, and it was between Tennessee and Philly, and all 3 teams. So that's nice thing. All 3 teams are home, which you always want to go. None of which I believe are divisional games, which you want to avoid. And so Tennessee, number one, they have the highest spread, the most heavily favored by Vegas by a half point. And Carolina sucks. So hopefully this is the Derrick Henry, 150-yard rushing game, and they just control the entire clock and you win. So Stacey, these Survivor Leagues, they can get. I know one that is going on like at work, some of the guys, it's 20 grand for first place.
Oh my
And
god.
oh yeah, it's down, and they're down to, I think, 16 teams, and there's only a few weeks left. And so it's stressful. This is probably potentially the most valuable question that we have to answer of all of them, maybe all year, because who knows how high this value's up to. Cheddarhead, if you have an answer to that, I would be very intrigued to know.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Yeah.
If you win,
Yeah.
drinks from you.
Yeah.
There's some cash.
I'm in agreement. I was just looking ahead real quick at the Eagles schedule because I thought they had like a little bit of a gauntlet schedule coming up, which they do.
Yep.
But if you can save the Eagles till like New Year's Eve, they play the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So that if you can last till then, that's your pick for the Eagles. Save them till the Cardinals and go with the Titans. And God, pray for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the concern for me with taking the Colts this week is it could be a 2-point game and you won't even know who wins until like the bell goes off. So that's why I would go with the Titans there. Joe saying thank you for the advice, guys. Thank you again, Joe, for your comment. Let's get over to the Rams at Arizona. Again, the Rams favored by 2.5, over under of 45. Nate, who's out of this game?
Yeah, so Arizona we know Michael Wilson's out. Marquise Brown is trending in the right direction after a couple did not practices, and Antonio Hamilton. Outside of that, everybody's locked and loaded.
All right, Nate, here you go. Here's your answer from Cheddarhead.
Okay, hold on. Let me get back to the screen.
It's just over 1,200 entries, down to 34 players. Left a $20 entry. Winner gets $24,000.
Wow. Drinks definitely are on you, Cheddarhead. Where are you playing in this? Like what
Stacy wants a buy-in for next year, Cheddar.
they have them a lot of places. Search for Survivor League and you'll find I think League Safe maybe runs some. There's some on some of the major websites, but a lot of them are just like long time running ones where people have been doing it for years, and it gets up to something like 1234. Oh man, that's stressful. Come on, Tennessee. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now all of us, none of us are Tennessee fans except for Kyle, and we're all now rooting for Tennessee just for you, Cheddarhead.
No pie bet on that one. No
pie bet. No pie bet.
Hell no.
Oh, come on. Double or nothing. Double or nothing. Let's go.
There
we go. Kyler Murray, QB6 since returning. Stacey, you starting him with confidence with no Michael Wilson and possibly no Marquise Brown?
Oh, yeah, because he's got Trey McBride. So Kyler he's averaging 20.5 fantasy points since his week 10 return. This also directly coincides with Trey McBride being the third most productive fantasy tight end during those 2 weeks. So they clearly have a connection. And guys, we all know we talk about it every single week. Tight end is horrible. So if you can throw Trey McBride in your lineup this week, you better do it. And I'm also starting Kyler Murray 100%. And I didn't think I would ever say that. Like at week 1, if you had asked me if I was going to start Kyler Murray at some point this season, I would have been like, no, that's ridiculous. Why would I do that? But here we are, week 12.
Yeah, Kyler Murray. Oh, Lord have mercy. The problem I'm having with Kyler is he doesn't have any weapons right now to throw to unless Marquise actually plays. I mean, Michael Wilson I thought was really going to be a smash play this week, but he's out, so that does hurt. Kyle, Matthew Stafford, trust him as a QB1 with Cooper Kupp?
QB1, no. But he is streamable against Arizona for sure, but I'm not going to say he's QB1.
All right, Nate, what are your expectations for both of these quarterbacks?
I mean, I gotta love. You have to like Stafford more with the complement of weapons that he has against a pretty porous Arizona defense. I mean, the Arizona defense itself, missing pieces across the defense from injury prior to this, and a lack of pass rush doesn't really leave me too concerned with Stafford. Do I think he's a one? I don't think he's a one necessarily, but I mean, if that's your option, Superflex is probably a great person to have matchup wise. And then Kyler, I'm in agreement with Stacy. He's my QB 7 on the week. And that's just been impressive. I'd love to have with Michael Wilson back, but I think he has good weapons when he can utilize, like with the ball in their hands. Rondale Moore and Greg Dortch, both not amazing players, but capable of doing a lot with a little, which is always helpful for a quarterback's floor and ceiling.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Dortch as well. With no Michael Wilson, with no Marquise Brown, is this the?
I think Hollywood's playing though.
Okay, but even with Hollywood, I mean, can you go ahead and plug in Dortch into at least a flex role this week?
I wouldn't.
No. Okay.
Is he a DFS? No, I don't do any DFS, and I am famously horrible at it. But would this be a day when you would put Dortch in a lineup? Maybe.
I mean, that would be absolutely a Keith Fleming question. I would definitely hit him up on Twitter over there. His DMs are open as well. I would hit up Keith Fleming on that one there. I do have a start sit question. I've been debating this pretty much the whole show. I have one league where I have both Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, and the word just came out that yes, Rashad White is active. So I've had him on my bench since he was questionable. I was going to play both of the Pittsburgh running backs. Do I move Najee Harris out and put Rashad White in? Or do I just leave it with both of the Pittsburgh running backs?
I'd go White.
Ooh.
PPR?
Yes.
Oh, definitely Rashad White and Jalen Warren.
Yeah, Warren. I'm right there with you, Kyle. I've been on Jalen Warren for a while now. Love him, and he's just only getting better, I think.
I just wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing there. Do we have any great expectations for either one of these running backs for the Rams and Arizona? Is Kyron Williams? You know, I know Kyle's definitely starting him. Is James Conner somebody that you're absolutely starting? You know, at least in an RB2 or a flex position. Kyle?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a solid RB2. He was efficient last week, 14 carries, 62 yards, but his biggest problem is finding the end zone. He scored in weeks 2 and 3, but after that, it's kind of been a little bit of a drought. But you still stick with Connor as an RB2. Maybe he can cash one in this week for us.
Nate, are you starting Connor this week?
I mean, if I don't know if I'm slamming him into my lineup, but I feel like the workload, we talked about that a little bit earlier, is that I trust his volume more so than most, just because there's really nobody else in Arizona that concerns me. I know, Stacy, go ahead.
Amari DiMercado has got a toe injury, and he is questionable.
Correct. I do believe he's supposed to play, from what all indications are, but that toe injury is no bueno.
No
so
bueno.
I'm gonna say I'm fine with Connor as my flex. If he's an RB2, I'm not thrilled. That probably means you're pretty strong other places, so why not?
Stacey, with all the, I know you're smashing the start button for McBride, but with all the other players that the Rams are going to be able to trot out there in Puka with Kupp, you know, with Kyron now, what are we doing with Higbee? Is he just go ride the pine, not worth starting, or is he somebody you possibly, even in a tight end premium, you could put into a flex position?
Let me take a look, because you know what? I actually don't have a Higbee anywhere, so I have very little idea. What is he?
I don't think you're gonna like what you see, but go for
it. Because I'm over here and I'm trying to find his numbers over here. I'm on Fantasy Pros. I'm trying to see what are his numbers for the season, and I gotta tell you, I can't find him on my list, so that's not good. So, here we go. Tight end 24, averaging. Do you guys want to guess how many points per week he's averaging right now?
Full point PPR or half point?
Half. Let's do half.
5.
I'm gonna go 0.5.
There you go. Well, it's in between. It's 4.4. So no thanks. Yeah, no thanks, Tyler Higbee. You probably have better options at tight end.
Especially with a full slate. No buys this week. All right. Nate, go ahead and give us the IDP relevant players for the Rams at Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Donald is a guy that you're going to have a hard time taking out of your lineup, especially against an Arizona. I don't want to say Arizona's pass protection is the worst because they have Kyler, and Kyler's legs help prevent a lot of that. But it's Ernest Jones, and maybe, just maybe, there's case being Jordan Fuller is quietly having a good season. Good tackle floor. He's up there in most. I don't say most, but he's a solid enough defensive back that he will give you a safe floor. Not something I'm going to clamor for if you're looking for upside.
All right, we have about 4 more games, I believe it is. Let's go to Kansas City, favored by 9 at Vegas, 43.5 over under. Nate, who's out?
Well, it's for the Chiefs. It's Jerick McKinnon, McCole Hardman, and Kadarius Toney. I believe Kadarius Toney's been ruled out. I don't know if it's certain yet or not.
Yeah, he was ruled out yesterday, I believe it was.
Yep, it is. He is ruled out. Now, on the Vegas side, this is the tricky one. No one knows yet because Max Crosby had been sick. He has a knee injury. They have a bye week next week. They don't want him to play. He wants to play. On the season, here's a fun little thing. On the season, every player that on going into Sunday that has been quote unquote doubtful has sat out. No one has actually played with the doubtful tag yet. Max Crosby strives to be the first person to do that on the season. And if there's a person that's going to do it, it's Max Crosby. Mm-hmm. That terrifies me for IDP leagues. If you have an option, I don't know what to tell you to do because we don't have a mega slate of games where you're going to have a ton of afternoon games to pivot from. So you have to make that decision. So don't ask me, Cheddarhead, in case you have that too. A $24,000 question. I'm out.
I'm out. We'll take the Venmo back. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. I'll still leave the Venmo up, but
just in case. But yeah, don't ask. Don't want to. I don't want to be wrong. Despite the sputtering offense, and when I say sputtering offense, I'm talking more or less the wide receiving core that the Kansas City Chiefs decide to roll out there on a weekly basis. Mahomes is still QB5. Is this the get right game for Patrick Mahomes and the wide receiving core? Kyle.
For Mahomes, yes. Wide receiver core, I'm still saying that he just delivers the ball to everybody. It's hard to trust the receivers in that offense other than the tight end, Travis Kelce. But yeah, for Mahomes, absolutely. I think this is a game where he is going to throw at least 3 touchdowns today.
Stacey, even with, the probably a guarantee. I'm going to go ahead and guarantee it. 20 touches or more for Josh Jacobs. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2.
Running back 2.
Wide receiver, running back 1, running back 2 against the pretty damn good KCD right here.
Yeah, I mean, they've been really surprising me. I think this is one of their best defensive units that they've had in a really long time. Can you guys hear me okay? I think my internet is a little fuzzy. We kind of have some bad weather here in Tampa, so just to make sure I'm good. You guys can hear me all right?
You're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Awesome. Yeah, so, I mean, Jacob.
And as we say that, she freezes.
Everybody's for a week. But, that's pretty disappointing considering how productive he was last season. I mean, I guess you could say really anything other than what he did last season would be considered a disappointment. He's got a really great defense, and Jacobs hasn't been his normal self. So I think you just have to temper expectations there and kind of hope for the best. I mean, there's no way that you're benching him at all, right? But I think you just kind of have to lower your expectations a little bit. I have a question. Do we know, is Taylor Swift attending this game? Because I need the regular Travis Kelce back. I need him to get on the, how he scores more points when she's in the stadium. So can anybody confirm, is she going to be there?
Nate, our inside source.
Yeah.
I can neither confirm nor will I deny. I have been sworn to secrecy from the rest of us Swifties. We won't say anything for all. If you if you're a Travis Kelce owner and I am playing against you, she is not in attendance. If you need more inside information, you can always go ahead and send over to @Nate Markham, and I will gladly let you know. Taylor Swift tickets available as well.
Oh my Lord. What's going on, Club Fantasy? I believe that's probably going to be either Josh. Yeah, it's probably Josh. Josh or Faith, one of the two. Appreciate you guys jumping in. Here's well, let me first go back to the Kansas City D real quick. If you didn't see it this past week, our very own Chris Battistow did a little deep dive for us. And if Kansas City is available, you play in a defensive league that has team defenses. Kansas City is available. Go grab them right now. Put them, and he says spend as much as you can on them, especially being that they have New England, Vegas, and Cincinnati as the fantasy playoff schedule goes. So I'm loving that. And I know Nate is loving that too, with that great lineup for the playoff schedule, for the Kansas City D. Jerick McKinnon's ruled out. Is Pacheco a smash start here for, an RB1, RB2 spot, Nate?
Yeah. He's, they lean heavily on him against Philly. He runs in such an effective manner that it's hard for them to not trust him in big, high volume situations, as well as what I would like to see is him being a little bit more involved in the passing game. But beggars can't be choosers. And so we'll just take the good first contact, no one's stopping him. But yeah, it's really that target share. We haven't seen a double-digit target share since week 8. So I would like to see a little bit more of that. But without McKinnon, that could help elevate. But even then, nobody. That's one of the things that's crazy is nobody on this team is being targeted. I mean, he's not passing to the running back. I mean, Jerick McKinnon's highest target share on the season is 13%. And that is less than Pacheco back in week 6. So love the floor. Don't love the ceiling if he doesn't get the passing work involved.
Kyle, you are out on this wide receiving core for the Kansas City Chiefs. Justin Watson or Rashid Weiss, you have to start one of them.
Man. Oh, man. I guess I would go. He's been, you know what? I'm going to go Justin Watson here. He has traditionally been like the down the field type guy, but I've noticed that Mahomes is targeting him a little bit more here in the second half of the season. Rashid Rice is supposed to be the guy, but he's not the guy. I would go with Justin Watson as I'm just seeing what Mahomes is doing, and he's throwing the ball to Watson a little bit more than everybody else on the receiver core.
How does this guy, who's supposed to be like the wide receiver 5 on his own team, receiving 11 targets against a Philly team? Woof. Anybody else you want to bring up for the Raiders there, Stacy?
Not really. I know we had, is there, you're going to ask, that's an IDP question. So I will definitely not answer that because you guys don't want my IDP advice at all. No, I don't really have anything else. I feel like that's going to be all Chiefs pretty much with that game.
Yeah.
L'Jarius Sneed is going to shadow AJ Brown. Will he shut him up? And he shut him down. Will he do the same thing to Devontae?
It's hard to say he's going to shut down. Like AJ Brown, they had a secondary option they could go to. Philly, that is. They could lean a little bit, which they didn't have much success until later with Devontae Smith. I don't know if the Raiders have that option. I don't know if Jacoby Myers is someone they're going to, utilize appropriately, and it's Aiden O'Connell anyway. But I think Devontae Adams will see 30% target share. What he does with that, I'm not overly optimistic, but at the same time, it's also Devontae Adams. So, here's Devontae Adams' target share over the last 3 weeks: 32%, 50%, 29%, 30%. So he's if we get catchable targets over 70%, that would be a blessing. Come on, Aiden O'Connell.
Well, if Sneed does shadow Devontae like he did AJ Brown and shut him down, doesn't that funnel back down to Meyer?
Well, it can, but you have Trip McDuffie most likely on him too, which is another, negative matchup for the receiver. I don't see much from the Raiders outside of, like Stace said, Josh Jacobs probably being just the only viable. I don't even think Michael Mayer is someone that I was gonna even want to rely on. I mean, he hasn't shown anything. He had the 1 week. What was that week? 6, and then like week 10. Yeah, I guess week 10 was the most recent where he almost got 20%. He's had, and those are the two top 12 finishes. Everything else has been just wide receiver 3 or worse, basically.
All right, give us the IDP side of things, because the last thing on here, of course, is Travis Kelce. There's no reason to even bring him up. You're starting him, period, the end.
Yes, exactly. It's gotta. You should. If you don't listen to New Heights podcast, you should listen to that. Him and Jason. There's nobody more down on himself right now than Travis Kelce, which I hope means 10 for $150 and 2 scores. It'd be nice, but we'll see. Like I said, touched on earlier, Max Crosby. I don't know what to say with that. I really don't. If he doesn't play, there's nobody else that I wanted to throw in. I don't trust Tyree Wilson to come in and have an impact. The Chiefs don't allow much pressure. And if they do, Mahomes has a great way of getting out of it. A la like last week, not a la, in lieu of last week where they allowed a ton of pressures, but that's the Eagles. That's going to happen. At linebacker, Robert Spillane against this Chiefs team that doesn't necessarily go deep as much as they have in the past. I think everything kind of stays over the middle. Spillane is a pretty good, decent play, as well as Trayvon Moehrig. Nate Hobbs has me intrigued. He's a nickel, short to intermediate stuff. He's kind of all over. He's good in run stop. He has some explosive plays, but nothing that I'm really clamoring outside of. If you're in a quarterback league, Nate Hobbs is probably going to be a must start for you. I think that's probably already determined. On the Kansas City side, George Karlaftis is a monster. I really love this. I love the matchup against the Raiders almost every time. Aiden O'Connell improves that, but Karlaftis, Chris Jones, both guys that you're probably starting. Drew Tranquil is a heavy workload. I say must play, but he's probably an LB2 this point, not the most productive. And then the secondary is a trick. It's a trick bag, guys. I don't know what to even tell you, because each given week, Steve Spagnuolo does the one thing that we hate, is he does his job really well. And he masks blitzes, he masks coverages, and he makes it really challenging to pick which defensive back's going to blitz. Because on one given week, it could be Trent McDuffie, who could have 5 blitzes and a sack and an interception. The next week, it could be Brian Cook. Then it's Justin Reed. And then it's, Leo Chanel. And it just goes on. And it makes it really challenging for IDP. It's like an offense that spreads the ball. I like Patrick Mahomes. The receivers are all blah. Can't trust any one of them. But somebody in a given week. So that's about it for the Chiefs and the Raiders.
All right. So then I want to get to this real quick. I'll start with you, Stacy. Chris B in the chat here. Chris Batistyle, our very own. Bench 1, start 1, cut 1, week 13. Pacheco, Rashad White, James Cook. Who you starting, who you benching, and who you cutting?
I knew you were going to start with me, and I saw that question. Chris, that is a really difficult question. I was over here making my little chart what I was going to do with it. Oh man. So I don't know if you guys knew this or not. I didn't know this till I took a look at the numbers. James Cook has the 4th most yards this season. Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah. DeAndre Swift has the 3rd. So that's pretty wild. Those two are going up against each other. Although Philly notoriously has a pretty good run defense, gives up like very few points per game to opposing teams and running backs. So because of that, I think I have to. I can't start James Cook, so I think I'm gonna bench Cook. I hate this question. I think I'm gonna start Pacheco just because it's the Chiefs. I think they're gonna run all over the Raiders, run and throw all over the Raiders. So I'm starting Pacheco, which means I have to cut Rashad White, which I really wouldn't cut Rashad White. I think you're definitely starting him in any format that you've got him. But for this exercise, I think I'm gonna have to cut Rashad White.
He put 13. I'm making sure that this is an anticipation for next week. Is that, I assume he means 12, but Chris, in Canadian terms, is like a 13 supposed to be a 12? Is that, I don't understand the conversion rate. Is that the same?
Conversion rate,
Yeah, the conversion rate. Oh no.
He says,
okay.
Oops.
Oopsie daisy.
The other comment I really like here is he cannot listen to the podcast with Travis and Jason because he does not want to support Travis Kelce's early retirement because that show is getting too much success. Preston Evans, quickly crew, Kyler or Stroud? He has to win this week. To me, it's Stroud.
Stroud until further notice.
Yep.
Yes, week 12 in Canada, we have days of the week savings time.
Yeah.
All right,
They do it right.
Yeah, let's move on to the last 4 o'clock game. This is where the pie bet for our very own Kyle came in last week. Are you want to double down on this one this week? I mean, we can set this up right now. If you want any kind of part of this game, you want to call Josh Allen out again.
No, I'm going to cut my losses.
Buffalo at Philly. Philly is favored by 3.5. 48.5 is the over under. Nate, who do we have as out for this game?
Not many. Buffalo secondary is without Dane Jackson and Taylor Rapp, and then Philly again without Dallas Goedert. That's it.
Oh, I so much want to send my first question to the one and only Pie Face over here.
Yeah.
But I'll send it to you, Nate, and then we'll get Pie Face's reaction. How many interceptions will Josh Allen throw this week?
He will only throw one.
Okay.
It'll be it'll be Darius Slay, and his consecutive interception streak will stay intact.
Okay. Will he still be a quarterback 1 this week?
He is the quarterback 1 on the season, so I can't imagine that's going to change against a Philadelphia team that is surprisingly, I mean, they give up I think the second or third most points to quarterbacks. I don't have it in front of me, but that's a shootout. So yeah, he's still a QB1. I don't think there's any question.
Kyle, you want to go over under on the 1 interception for Josh Allen? And is there a pie involved on your answer?
No pie. Definitely not doing that. But looking at Josh Allen's history, he only has 2 games where he threw multi-interceptions. Denver, and in week 1 against the Jets, where he threw 3. He threw 2 in Denver. Everything else has been single interceptions except for a couple of games. So the trend is 1 interception, but high shootout. I'm going to go with he throws 2 in this game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's still QB1 overall for the season.
That's crazy. He's also QB1 on interceptions for the season, as well as you brought up last week. Stacey, can James Cook mimic what Isaiah Pacheco did and establish this running game?
Not against Philly. I don't have confidence in that. I think his numbers will be a little bit lower than usual, for sure. I just have too much belief in that Philly run D. To really feel confident starting him and expecting him to have big numbers there. I mean, I think they're going to get their numbers elsewhere. Just going back to the interception thing real quick, I just took a look. Both quarterbacks, Allen and Hurts, the over-under set at 0.5 for both of those guys. So I'm going to take the over on Josh Allen right now because we're allowed to bet in Florida finally.
Yeah.
Rub it in.
Come on down, Nate, anytime. Come on down. Come down visit.
I got
all you got to do, Nate, is hit the cell tower. That's all you got to do. Close enough to hit the cell tower.
I can go 20 minutes east, and I can bet in Illinois if I want to.
I mean, golly,
yeah. But it sounds more fun to be in Tampa with Stacey.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Not from my liver, but
it's just like soon, but slightly different.
A little bit different, but
yeah,
I'm gonna say it's the same. Everything can be the same through one eye and a haze.
All right, so Diggs, AJB, Smith, all must starts. Are we sitting Gabe Davis?
I would play him. No, I would play him. I know he's boomer bust, but if you're thinking this game's going to shoot out, then Gabe Davis has to have a long touchdown, right?
Look.
I don't know.
Who's
I'm not saying anything crazy.
Yeah, who's covering who when it comes to the Philly D right now? When you're looking at the offensive side of things, would you rather play Gabe Davis or Khalil Shakir?
I think I'd rather play Gabe.
Okay.
As far as like pure matchups, Philly has the one thing that is still working into their pass coverages, the utilization of Kevin Byard. His involvement on that defense has been instrumental, and I don't necessarily say that's going to have an impact on one or the other. It's hard to say exactly, but it's like the likelihood that one of the two. If it's going to be Shakir or Gabe Davis, the big play is going to happen to Gabe Davis. I think Shakir's matchup is better. If you look at, so Stephon Diggs will probably be lined up against James Bradbury. Let's say it's either or, Bradbury or Slay. Davis will be the other. Shakir's going to have Bradley Roby, which is a better matchup. I just don't want to plan for. That's where Kevin Byard comes in, because I think Byard can kind of shade over a little bit and protect that insecurity that they have within Roby. I don't know if that's a fair analysis or not, but I think that's how I would project if I was assuming that scenario.
Stacey, can K-Day start today?
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, the way he's been coming on lately, right now he is second in targets behind behind Stephon Diggs. Right now he's got 58. Diggs has 108. That's of course that's Stephon Diggs. But Dalton Kincaid, 58 targets right now, 51 receptions, 2 touchdowns. You guys got 436 yards so far. And considering that they weren't really using him that much at the beginning of the season, those are pretty good numbers. So, again, tight end is what it is. So if you've got Dalton Kincaid, you're definitely starting him, especially with this game supposed to be blowout. Not blowout, but just, shootout. Thank you. Gosh.
Yeah. That's another thing with Kevin Byard too. That's going to be the matchup that I want to watch, is those two going head to head. That should be, it should be pretty exciting. So IDP wise, Philly is a plethora of IDP options across the defensive line. They just got rid of Derek Barnett, but Hassan Reddick has been a stud. Jalen Carter's a stud. Josh Sweat is a stud. Buffalo in his shootouts, I expect more of a passing games than running, which obviously heightens the floor for both sack upside teams. At linebacker, though, I don't really love anybody from Philly. I mean, between Cunningham and Morrow, it just seems like you could do better for sure. And then in the secondary, that's where, it's like I said, Kevin Byard, the matchup with Kincaid, if he's targeted that heavy and or he shifts over and has a little bit of bracketed coverage, he could be instrumental in that. He could be the person that gets that second interception that, Kyle, you said he's going to throw 2. So Darius Slay will get 1, Kevin Byard will get the other. And there you go. If that's the case, Kevin Byard's going to be a defensive back 1 on the week. I will not pie bet or project that, but that's what would happen if you use math. On the Buffalo side of the ball, again, pass rush, we saw last week in the first half, the Chiefs could get to Jalen Hurts. If that were to happen, that would most likely be on the reliance of Gregory Rousseau with Ed Oliver up the middle, trying to give a little bit of pass rush or pressure up the middle to leave more one-on-ones. Terrell Bernard has been a linebacker to roster there, as well as like in the secondary, Jordan Poyer, Tyron Johnson might be worth looking at, but that's the IDP for that game for sure. If you Gator, you want to take us to the Sunday night game?
Yeah, let's get over to the Sunday night game. That wraps up the Sunday main slate. Sunday night, we got Baltimore favored by 3.5 at the Chargers, over under of 48. And I think this over under may be a little low because I do believe the way that the Chargers run, well, not run, but pass the ball, the way they run their offense is strictly, through the passing game. And you could see, 35-28, something like that in this game. I think it's going to be a shootout, to say the least. Nate, who's out of this game?
Luckily, not anything big. Just, I don't know, Mark Andrews. No, that's really about it, though. Malik Harrison is doubtful, backup linebacker. Trenton Simpson, backup linebacker. And then really nothing for the Chargers side that hasn't already been out.
Yeah, I mean, we know the Chargers cannot stop the pass. That's, again, why I say I think it's going to be a shootout. But they've allowed the 3rd fewest rushing yards to opponent quarterbacks. Going to be an interesting Lamar day today. Stacey, what do you think about Lamar being able to run the ball versus this Chargers defense?
Yeah, I don't think they played Lamar yet. So I guess those are the numbers. They are what they are. But yeah,
So Stacy says that number 3 is fixing to add a 1 in front of it at least.
yeah.
Here's the names. I thought it was funny. Stacy's exactly right. It's Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Aiden O'Connell, Tyson Badgett, Zach Wilson, Jared Goff, Jordan Love are the names. So yes.
So you're saying the numbers are skewed.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
There is a small one.
That's so gross. Oh my God.
I guess that was kind of an unfair question.
Oh
boy. Gus has scored a touchdown in each of the games since week 7. Does he keep that alive, Stacy?
Yeah, he does. He has 10 so far in the season. He's got the 3rd most touchdowns this season. I had, again, no idea until I started looking up, doing my notes and everything for the show. That's why I don't have any Gus Edwards. That's probably why I don't know this. I wish I did have Gus Edwards with his 10 touchdowns. My gosh. Yeah, I don't see any reason why this doesn't continue. At least get him one.
Kyle, how's your skin going to be when that comes off? It seems like it seems like a face mask you have going on right now. And when you take it off, if you have soft and buttery skin, will you let us know and we can start our own pumpkin fantasy and frames facial mask?
Yeah, I definitely will. Maybe we've just created something like
there's a possibility.
Gotta rub it in, gotta get the forehead a little bit too. You know,
maybe Stacey can trademark that for
us. Yeah, absolutely. Ooh. Absolutely. I'll get right on that.
Love it. I love
Fantasy and frames, pumpkin face mask peel.
Love it.
Kyle, you still
they have a pumpkin enzyme mask already out.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's enzymes. This isn't a sweet potato.
Oh, this is sweet potato. Okay,
this is sweet potato.
I can't wait to get off so I can clean this up, by the way.
Tyler, when he got pied on 365, he wiped it all off like immediately. So
well, mine was so cool, like I looked like Batman that I had to keep it on for a while.
That's why honestly, this is why I didn't send a bunch of questions to you, because every time you started talking, it would fall off piece by piece. And I really, really, truly just wanted to keep that Batman, at least the bottom half of the Batman mask all together.
It hung on there until we got into the 4 o'clock games. It stuck around.
Yeah, and Preston knows this to be a factual statement here. The longer it stays on the face, the harder it is to get off, Kyle.
Oh, then I need to get out of here.
No. We've only got these 2 last games. You can hang out for a little bit while. Keenan Allen and Zay, wide receiver 2 or 3. This anybody else on that side of the ball that we need to even discuss? Nate?
No, not for me at least.
Okay, very, very fair. Isaiah Likely. Nate and I talked about him at the very beginning of the show as far as possibly being a dynasty buy. In this situation, given the fact that we know the Chargers defense gives up a ton through the air, is it possible for Isaiah Likely to be a tight end 1 this week, Kyle?
Yeah, I think it can. I mean, what's his competition this week? In a shootout like this, we've seen what Isaiah Likely could do last year when he came in for Mark Andrews. We've seen what he could do. He has balled out before. This is why people wanted to get him, because they know what Isaiah Likely can do. And this is the game that he could show out a little bit and make those owners that picked him up, spent their fab on him, reward them for that pickup.
Stacy, anybody else we need to talk about in this game from either side of the ball?
I really can't think of anybody. I mean, do we know, is OBJ playing, right? And he had that shoulder injury.
I think that is still up in the air right now. I don't think they have to let us know until like 3 o'clock, something like that. So with that, then let's move over to the IDP side of this game. Baltimore at the Chargers. Nate, who are we smashing here?
Sure. And Odell got a full practice in the most recent practice. So that's a positive trend if there's going to be anything. The Chargers don't do a great job of allowing opposing linebackers to score, or they just don't give them the number of volume to the middle of the field like that. And that means that I love Roquan. I love Patrick Queen in a given scenario, but I think I'm going to lean Roquan and move Patrick Queen down to like a low end LB2 this week. As far as pass rush goes, Odafe Oweh has been phenomenal since he's returned. I think that he could get to Justin Herbert. And then in the secondary, you always have to wonder how they're going to utilize Kyle Hamilton. And I wish I knew week in and week out. He's polarizing. He's volatile. He's someone you're probably going to start. Someone you are going to start because his upside is the DB1 overall. We've seen that in multiple weeks. But short of that, I don't want to trust Geno Stone. His play time has been a little wonky with Marcus Williams back. And then if you start in a quarterback lead, Brandon Stevens has been a corner definitely worth rostering, especially in a matchup that's going to be this high profile as far as passing attacks go. For the Chargers, pass rush without a healthy Joey Bosa means that Tui Tuipulotu is in an every down type scenario. There's no rotation. He's going to pretty much solidify that left outside edge with Khalil Mack on the right side. I'm starting, and I like both of those two to go along with. I have Kenneth Murray as a higher elevated start. Eric Kendricks has been efficient with the snaps he's been given. He hasn't been playing 100%, but solid linebackers there. And then the secondary is Derwin James all day, and that is your IDP.
What's the box snaps for Hamilton? He's been getting a ton. Do you think he's going to continue to stay up in the box a little bit with this heavy passing offense of the Chargers?
He does when Marcus Williams is there. So Marcus Williams gives him the ability to move up a little bit, plays more slot nickel. It's his most valuable weeks are when they utilize him off the edge of blitz, and they blitz more than anybody else in the NFL basically. And so it's not a consistent approach, which makes it a little bit challenging, to know his upside.
We shall move on to the Monday night game. Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings favored by 3, over under of 43. Justin Jefferson is still listed on the IR. This is the last week before they have to remove him, if I'm not mistaken, for the 21-day window rather. Who else is out for this game, Nate?
Nothing really. Larry Borum is a an offensive tackle for the Bears. It makes no difference to me in this game whatsoever. So it's pretty much just that.
Fields is QB1, but are you starting Dobbs there, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he will. He's looked really good. Trying to look at last week against Denver. Yeah, another
quarterback 14 last week.
Yeah, and he's really. And going back to week 8, he was quarterback 7, quarterback 5, quarterback 3, quarterback 14. Yeah, you're starting them against that Bears. Now, they did look good. The Bears defense did look really good against Jared Goff on Thanksgiving. But will that continue? I'm still rolling with Josh Dobbs. He's been hot, red hot.
Stacey, Herbert or Madison this week?
Oh, that's really gross. I think I'd have to go. Yeah, that's gross. I think I'd have to, if I have to choose, I'd probably go with, I feel like I'm about to say Madison just because there's 3 guys. Is Foreman playing or is he doubtful?
He's been doubtful. I want to say maybe I overlooked him. Maybe I didn't actually update this because I thought I saw that he's doubtful. And if it goes back to what we said earlier, nobody outside of the potential for Max Crosby that's been doubtful going into Saturday has played. So I would assume if I had to bet, I'll do a pie bet that he doesn't play.
Whoa!
Oh, he's playing it safe. He's playing it safe.
Yeah, of course I'm playing it safe. Look at you, yet.
In that case, then I would probably go Herbert. I don't like it though. If there were all 3 guys back there with Herbert, Roschon, and Foreman, and then you've got Justin Fields also, run, I would be a little bit more hesitant there. But with Foreman out, you're just down to Roschon and Herbert there. So I'm probably going to lean Herbert. But I did have some notes on Madison and Chandler. Chandler was by far the way more efficient runner in the last game where he actually finally got some work. He was yards per attempt was 7.3 as opposed to Madison's, which was 4.5. Madison, just the eye test, he's not looked good in any game that I've been able to watch, like the full game and not just on red zone. So, for me, I wasn't a big fan of Madison going into the season, and I feel like it's kind of worked itself out it's just not what we were all hoping that he would be once Dalvin Cook got cut. He get cut or whatever. Anyway, once he ended up in with the Jets. So I guess to answer your question, Gator, I guess I'm going to have to lean Herbert here, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, but now I truly want to. I want to find somebody that has connections that can get Matt Eberflus, get a hold of Matt Eberflus. I just need Foreman in there for one play. I don't even care if he touches the ball. He doesn't even need to do anything. He just needs to be in for one play, just so we have Nate smashing his face with a pie. For that ridiculous comment he just made. Real quick before we go any further in this game, Preston's got one likely or Godwin in a flex spot. Let's go around the frames. Stacy, leading with you.
Godwin smash 100%. I just had bet. Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say last year, I didn't really love Likely when I had to play him when Andrews got hurt. Didn't really do much for my team. So Godwin all the way.
Nate?
Man, I don't love Godwin in the matchup, just simply how he performs against zone coverages, but I still think Godwin is the safer play as a whole.
Yeah, and Preston adds to it. He's rolling the dice. He has to win this week. So, Kyle, is it Godwin or is it Likely?
It's a clean sweep here. You got to go Chris Godwin. He's a sure lock for 6 for 80. You're going to lock that in. I'd rather have that versus, I don't know, maybe Likely blocks a little bit more than we want. And I'm not a big fan of 2 tight ends in my starting roster. So Chris Godwin.
Nate, Justin Jefferson, huge question mark like we've brought up. With it being a Monday night game, are you risking putting him in your starting lineup this week? Not with that question mark.
Man, there's no pivot options that I like. That's the hardest thing. It's like, is there anybody on Chicago? I mean, are you comfortable if Darnell Mooney's available, somehow picking him up and starting him? No. Are you comfortable with you're not going to be able to get Addison's not available. KJ Osborne's probably not available. There's nobody else on those 2 teams. So
Brandon Powell is what you'd have to probably pivot to.
Yeah, there you go. And that's actually and that's assuming that he's available, which I assume he should be, but I don't know. I don't love that. That's a tough one because I'm going to probably say no. I guess a lot can depend on these early games. If at noon you have a blow up game from somebody and you feel like risking it. What, Kyle, let me ask you and Stacy, what's a better scenario? If you're down early, you risk starting Justin Jefferson, or if you're up early, are you more comfortable starting Justin Jefferson?
Oh man.
I don't know.
Yeah. For me, here's the thing. We all know Justin Jefferson's a stud, but his first game back, even if he plays, let's say he plays, he's not getting 100% snap count, right?
I wouldn't think so.
No. Yeah.
They're going to ease him in probably. I would feel more comfortable benching him. But to answer your question, Nate, I would feel more comfortable being up, starting Jefferson, and having Powell on the sideline just in case I needed a couple points to knock it off.
That's fair.
That's such a rough question. Wow.
I actually have this conundrum in a league of mine. I'm up right now, and it's projected to be like within 1 point of each other. The only spot that I have left, though, on my team is the flex spot because everybody else has played already, except for my quarterback, which is Stroud. So I have Jefferson. He's on my IR spot. And I was just looking, and I was like, I mean, I don't have anybody to pivot to. There's just no way that I could feel comfortable putting him in at this point. And something to think about too. I mean, their bye is next week. Like, I don't really think they're bringing him back before that bye. It doesn't really make sense to me. And then also too, he and Dobbs haven't really played together yet. So to expect him and Dobbs to have like a great connection, even though he is Justin Jefferson right from the, get-go, I think is a little bit unreasonable. So I don't know. I wouldn't feel good about it if I put him in. I just couldn't do it confidently.
Yeah, you saying that, Stacy, pretty much should lock in benching Justin Jefferson this week. That was beautifully said.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's the only time you'll ever hear us on the show say bench Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. DJ Moore finishing wide receiver 5, wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 6 in the past 3 starts with Justin Fields. Anybody else, Bears wide receiver wise, that you are comfortable starting, Stacy?
No, not a one. Mooney, I mean, I just, yeah, not a one comes to mind that I would feel comfortable starting other than DJ Moore at this point. Maybe Cole Kmet. Let me take that back. Maybe Cole Kmet. It seems like, he's done a little bit, done pretty well with Justin Fields when he plays. It seems like they have a good connection. I know that whenever I bench him on my Scott Fishbowl team, that he goes off. So,
Are you benching him this week?
well, I didn't make the playoffs, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Hi, I'm. You and I are on the sidelines watching Nate and
are.
Kyle over there just try to raise the value of the
We are
show.
cheering from the sidelines.
Yes.
Well, I feel bad because I'm the one that took Stacy out last week.
This is
Oh,
true. This is true. Don't feel that bad. If
dick.
my team had been better, I wouldn't have been in that position to be like on the cusp of getting in there or not. So,
well, Stacey, didn't you pick from the 4 spot too?
I picked from the 2 spot,
2,
and
okay.
Tyler picked from
That's
the
right.
3. But if it's any consolation, Gator, Tyler didn't make it in either. So,
Well, no, but where I was going with is all of us were in Orlando.
Yeah.
I picked from the 4 spot. Kyle picked from the 4 spot. Also, our very own Chalupa Batman, Zach, he picked from the 4 spot as well.
God.
2 of those guys, not me, but Kyle and Zach both got in. So
I'm in the 4
Nate
spot too.
Markham also picked from the 4 spot into the playoffs.
Next year, I'm picking from the 4
Here,
spot.
I tell you what, you guys, you can help if you don't give me bad advice because you hate me and spite this. How about we pick the receiver? So here's the team that I'm starting.
Hang
Go
on,
ahead.
Nate. Let's get Jose's question real quick.
Oh yes,
Since he's got to get this lineup set up. Hopkins or Evans in a full PPR. Let's start with you, Kyle.
I'm going to go Evans.
Uh-oh.
Nate,
Evans.
Stacy. She froze on us, but I think she's going Evans as well. There you are. You're back.
I'm back. I don't know what's going on with my internet today, guys. I have to call Spectrum here in a second and complain. I would go with Evans for sure, and I think I froze again. But I would go with Evans for sure. I think the Carolina game is going to be all Derrick Henry.
Yeah, your video froze, but the sound was great. It is a clean sweep. It is Evans all the way around. Get that lineup set in there for Evans, Jose. Nate, go ahead. Let's talk about your lineup real quick before we get out of here.
I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I have to choose. I can basically pick 2 of these 4 receivers: Drake London, DeAndre Hopkins, Nico Collins, Jordan Addison. I have Nico and D-Hop in right now. I'm contemplating pivoting to Drake London without Marshawn Lattimore, but I don't know if I want to sit Nico or D-Hop.
I wouldn't sit Nico for sure.
Yeah.
What I worry about with the Tennessee Carolina game is that that's going to be all Derrick Henry because Carolina's got such a bad run defense.
Correct.
That would be my worry there.
Yeah, and Henry's due for a good game.
Oh, yeah.
You said you had Addison as well.
I do, and
He's somebody I would look at, and here's why. When they played in week 6, he only had 5 targets, caught 3 of those, only 28 yards, but he did get in the end zone. If there is no Justin Jefferson, we know it's going to be, the targets are going to be going between him and Hawk. You've had no Justin Jefferson for 4 weeks now. He's had 8 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets.
I know, and he hasn't put up more than, other than that first week against the Packers, he's had 12 points, 9 points.
Yes.
And that's in Scott Fishbowl scoring.
I get that. I get that as well. But this is it is Scott Fishbowl scoring, so it is all about upside. And like Stacy said, with D-Hop, as much as I like D-Hop this week going up against the Atlanta secondary, I can see this being the cold weather game that it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Derrick Henry being heavily involved in this game.
Exactly. Well, let's hope that regardless of the play, I advance to the second round because I have a decent enough average scoring on the season. But wanted to run it past you guys. I like to keep you guys involved. You have part of that, like we have with Cheddarhead, that 10% of the winnings when he wins. That's not a bad return.
The problem is you're the only one that gave him the Venmo. So then by the time it gets to you and you take your 10% plus the Venmo fee plus, and there's nothing left for none of us. So with all of that being said, Nate, give us the IDP side of Chicago, Minnesota for Monday night. And hopefully we don't have to press this week.
As little as there will be of the money to go around, there's almost a little bit fewer in terms of stud IDP options short of about 2 or 3 names. One of those names, Danielle Hunter. No questions asked. Another one I love because I've been talking about him all years, Ivan Pace. Unfortunately, that's a product of an injury to Jordan Hicks, but Ivan Pace is in an every down spot. Really like that. And outside rusher and DJ Wanham, if you're in a deep enough league, is intriguing because Chicago's all pass protection is pretty poor. And then in the secondary, it's crazy. The Minnesota Vikings have 3 guys that are all startable in Harrison Smith, Cameron Bynum, and kind of Josh Metellus. But for the most part, it's really Harrison Smith and Cameron Bynum. What's funny is I just said, I was like, oh, there's very little options. And then I rattle off like 7 players that are all actually startable. But on the Bears side, it's not as much. Many people look at Montez Sweat and say, look at his production. I don't buy it. I think that his metrics have now proven otherwise without the rest of the Commanders. He has fallen on hard times. TJ Edwards has been a stud. Tremaine Edmonds returns this week, so Jack Sanborn takes a back seat. Jaquan Brisker has been pretty much what you would expect, playing in the box plenty of times, enough to be relevant. And that wraps up week 12 or 13 if you're in Canada.
13 in Canada. That's right. That's right. Well, Nate, since you need a break from talking for just a quick second, I'm going to send over to Kyle. That way Kyle can go get his face washed off. Thank you so much for being such an awesome dude with the pie bet. Tell the good people what you have going on, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on KZ1180 over at the X, and I really just want to get out of here and watch this because Preston has really freaked me out right now. It's harder to get off the longer this sticks. So I'm going to hop in the shower right now. I appreciate y'all. And once again, I apologize to the Bills Mafia. That was for you. Go Bills.
Wow. Kyle, what a trooper, buddy. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go get you a hot shower. Get that off of your face. Make sure the wife takes a couple pictures. And we can definitely use those for graphics and things like that. That'd be awesome. Stacy, tell the good people what you got going on, where they can find you.
Guys, you can find me at Stacy_Perez83 on the X. Also, we put out a real fun little just lighthearted thing this week, the Fantasy Football Lawyer, where I'm giving fake legal advice to some of our less than fortunate fantasy players. So if you have any suggestions that you'd like to see, let me know. Shoot me a DM, send that on over. But that is where. Oh, and then on Wednesdays at 8, hello, Dynasty 365. Make sure you tune in for that.
Yeah, I real quick. I don't know how fake that was. I think that was pretty damn honest of you, given the Quentin Johnston issues there. So if you haven't seen that, please go check that out over there on TikTok. That was phenomenal. Great job by you, Stacy, on that. Nate, where can the people find you, and what do you got going on?
At Nate Markham over on the I'm gonna still call it Twitter because I'm not doing the X
absolutely
thing, but that's everything there, man. I mean, any questions, obviously reach out. Wednesday night, check out Shoot the Gap. We should be back and rolling with full staff and ready to get you prepared for the playoffs. Good luck, everyone, this week.
Yeah, now that we have Nate put his passport back in the safe, he's not going to be going overseas anytime soon, unless, of course, he gets that nice Venmo check from Cheddar there. Yeah, he gets that Venmo check, and we may not see Nate for a while. But no, please go check out everything Fantasy in Frames has got going on. Follow Fantasy in Frames both on Twitter and over there on the TikTok. Chris is doing a phenomenal job putting out a bunch of content over there on TikTok. Some funny stuff, some classic stuff. I know I've got to get off of here and actually do up a parlay that I'm going to be dropping here over there on TikTok for Chris as well. I believe we're going to do the Buffalo Philly game. So we'll do the 425 game. Doing that. Make sure you're following, like I said, over there on Twitter. Tuesday nights, we have the Waiver Wire show starting at 7:30. Wednesday night is Fantasy in Frames Wednesday, where you have Dynasty 365 at 8. You have Fourth in Frames at 9. And then, of course, Shoot the Gap at 10. And then, of course, the most important show of our week, they start sit on Sunday. We start at 9 o'clock, go to noon, 12:30 if Nate gets long-winded on his IDP stuff. But go follow everybody, myself at FantasyJ77, Nate at Nate Markham, Stacy at Stacy_Perez83, Les, which was on earlier at Spectaculess. Make sure you're following Fantasy in Frames over there as well. For Stacy, for Nate, it has been fun. Y'all have a great day.